I feel like this is the day you have to do the OC style start of the show. Happy Friday! Because it's Friday. Who doesn't like a Friday? I know Brian Brown, my co-host today, filling in for OC, loves a Friday. Don't you, Brian?
I love Friday.
Hot take. Fridays are good.
I know.
Fridays are great.
That's breaking. Breaking. Brian Brown loves Fridays.
The hottest rumor we've heard today is that we love Fridays here on the Sean O'Connell Show. You already know that OC loves Fridays. You're going to get to hear from OC once again, by the way, because we are airing grievances. If you want to start getting those out of the way now, we're not going to read them till 1:30 because that's the airing of grievances segment, and the format of the show is sacred. Okay, so we don't do early airing of grievances. But if you want to text us your grievances throughout the show, we'll get to them at 1:30. You want to wait till 1:30, that's great too. You can also call in. We're not going to take your calls on the air before 1:30, but 877-353 is the call and text line here at ESPN 792.1 FM. If you're feeling like I just need to get this off my chest now, text it in. If you want to actually be on the air with us to air your grievance, wait to call us at 1:30. We'll do that with OC. It's also a PFL fight night. Previewed that a little bit with him on Wednesday. We'll do that again. They're in Chicago. We will get a hotel update from OC as well. If you missed last week, Wichita was not great for the hotel.
That was a leading grievance last week.
Yes. Cold water and cold room. Couldn't adjust the AC, and the elevator wasn't working, and they're on the 14th floor. So he told us
our guy
on
had
Wednesday,
a rough one.
he told us on Wednesday he wasn't able to completely confirm because he hadn't been up to the room yet, but he feels much better about the hotel situation. And I would hope so in Chicago, of all places. The PFL would be able to get him some nice digs. Probably less likely, all due respect, to do that in Wichita than in Chicago. So just like it's less likely to find that in Salt Lake City versus LA. Okay, like it's not about Wichita at all. But there you go.
It caught me off guard a little bit that Wichita has a 14-story hotel.
Yeah, that
Not
did
even
too.
gonna lie.
Is that their mountain? Their 14-story hotel?
Listen, everybody's got
Shout
a
out
mountain to climb, and Wichita's is a hotel with no elevator. So
shout out to the wheat shockers, by the way. As Gordy would say, he always includes the wheat part.
Yes.
So now I'm starting to. They're not just the shockers; they're the wheat shockers. Just like Jordan High School, OC's alma mater. Some people might call them the diggers, but they're the beat diggers, right? So there you go.
glad you said that, not me.
Phrasing.
We're off to a real
Bill Riley.
hot start over here today.
Bill Riley at 11:30 today. Voice of the Utes. He's going to weigh in on what will be kind of our Utah football theme today, Brian. We're going to analyze the schedule. We're going to do it for BYU's as well. We're going to Bill to weigh in on that. Pac-12 is officially back. You saw this, Brian. Texas State has been added. So that's their 8th football program, which that's the minimum number. Anyone who's been following this knows that's the minimum number to be recognized as an FBS or as a Division I football program, FBS or Group of 5, or I guess conference is the way to say that. So they got to 8. Gonzaga makes them 9 basketball schools, if I'm not mistaken, unless one of those schools is only doing football. One of the other 8 is only doing football. So that means the Pac-12 is officially back. They had a couple of years to get one more, and they did it. So welcome back, Pac-12. Welcome back, Pac.
Proud of you, Pac-12.
The Pac is back, and you can now back the Pac.
Undertaker gif inserted everywhere, all social medias. Kudos to the Pac-12 for adding an absolute gem of a city in San Marcos, also known as San Marvelous.
San Marvelous.
Yeah. So if you're planning on a road trip to Texas State at any point in time, they go jump in the river after games.
That's close to El Paso, right? Same.
No.
Okay.
It's actually in a nice part of Texas.
It's in a nice part of Texas. Is it West Texas though, or is it?
I believe
Or is it
you're
kinda
making me do
central?
geography in the first hour, James. This is really
You
gonna.
know what? Google
stress the
Google
show.
exists. I could just look it up, but
I
anyway.
believe that San Marcos is near, if I'm not mistaken, it's between like Dallas and Austin.
Oh, okay, so East Texas. So yes, definitely the nicer part of Texas, and but right there by the river. So there you go. Texas. If there's two things you think of with Texas, it's football and the Pacific Ocean. So there you go in the Pac-12.
Incorrect. It's between Austin and San Antonio.
Okay, so kind of central.
Yeah, which is honestly a great part of Texas.
Still the nice part of Texas compared to what I erroneously
Started
said
getting
with
into El Paso and Lubbock and some of those. West Texas is a little different. It's just different.
Definitely is.
Somebody loves West Texas.
I think I may have told this to you before. I may have said it on the air before. I don't remember. So I grew up in St. George. After high school, my dad got a job opportunity in Dallas area, so we moved. And he was like, "You're graduated high school. You do what you want to do." I'm like, "I have no job. I'm going with you. I have no place to live or no place to pay for, no way to pay for it. So I'm going with you." So we moved to Dallas. We drive for some crazy reason the 19 plus hours from St. George to Dallas. How much of that do you think is in the great state of Texas? We had to go through Arizona, all the way horizontally through Arizona, and all the way through New Mexico. Then you get to Texas.
So I'm going to say at least 9 hours of it is Texas.
It was 9.5 hours in Texas. So I guess, I'm
out.
It was 9.5.
Ending on a high note.
So we drove. Let me restate. We drove to about where on the way to Page. You take the road on the way to Page and Lake Powell, right? So you drive along the Arizona Strip, and then you go down into Arizona. So it's really about halfway through Arizona. It's all of New Mexico. That's 1.5 states, three and a half states, Brian, and the longest part of the trip is in Texas, and it's West Texas, by the way. That was absolutely the longest part of the trip. By the way, nothing much to look at in New Mexico either. It was one of the most boring drives I've ever been on.
I was going to say that stretch of New Mexico is not exactly prime territory either.
We went through Albuquerque, and I was thinking, okay, I've heard of Albuquerque. It's probably nice to look at. Nothing stood out to me at all. I mean, no disrespect to New Mexico or our guy Trey Fitzgerald. Shout out to Trey Fitzgerald, great New Mexican. I digress. So Bill Riley at 11:30. Then we have a awesome treat. We're going to have an all hockey hour in the noon hour, Brian. Adrian Denny, the studio host for SEG Media on the radio side for Utah Mammoth. He's going to be in studio with us. We're going to unveil our Behind the Glass segment that's going to start this off season and go in and be throughout this next season. The first one as the Utah Mammoth, so we're very excited about that. That's at noon. And then, Brian, one of your good friends and someone that a lot of Utah fans know because of his late, great father, Austin Facer, the podcast host for SLC Puck. You saw him on SEG Plus on the Nashcast. He was featured on that quite a bit with Tyson Nash, the former Coyotes player. So, yeah, that's going to be a fun segment. Then at 1:30, I mentioned the great OC, host of the show, coming on as a guest once again. We're going to air some grievances.
It's going to be a fun Friday, and just as a teaser for the fans out there, we've talked a lot of draft. We'll talk some draft. We'll talk some hockey, obviously. Austin has a story about a certain Stanley Cup winning team having some fun with a local restaurant. And let's just say that it's a real buffet of good times and stories.
Okay.
Real buffet of a mystery.
Okay. A certain Stanley Cup championship team, a recent one at that. I'm excited for that.
Maybe
now,
even this
Brian.
year. Who knows?
I am very
call
excited
it a tease
about that.
in the business, I've been told.
ESPN 792.1 FM is pleased to announce Maroon 5 is coming to the Delta Center on October 25th. Tickets are on sale now. Details at ESPN700sports.com. I believe Spence Checketts is giving away those tickets on the drive. It'll be Porter Larson today because Spence is out of town. Porter and I believe Bryce Larson will be filling in. It'll be Larson and Larson, SEN and SON, Larson and Larson on the drive today. So excited about that. They're in Spanish Fork doing the show at a Tim Dolly Ford down there. So check that out later today as well. Let's touch on NHL draft. It begins tonight. First round, 5 o'clock on ESPN Plus. It's like the NFL where the first day is just the first round, and I guess like the NBA has gone to as well. First day is just the first round, and then the second day is rounds. I think there's 7 rounds in the NHL draft as well, just like NFL. So it's rounds 2 through 7, a lot faster pace. So it's like how the NFL used to be, Brian. It used to be a 2-day event. It was like, I think they had the first 2 rounds on day 1 and then the last 4 day 2. Now they've put it over 3 days. But so round 1 tonight, the rest of the rounds tomorrow, 5 o'clock tonight on ESPN Plus. The Mammoth have 6 picks, and you all know by now they also have the number 4 overall pick. So that's their 1 pick tonight. Unless they trade out of that, we'll talk about those things once again with Adrian Denny and Austin Facer in the noon hour. It's going to be entire noon hour, all hockey, all Utah Mammoth, and some a juicy story, a buffet of juicy stories with Austin Facer.
A buffet of an adventure?
A buffet of an adventure. Also, tell you what happened last night in the second round of the NBA draft for the Utah Jazz. They take John Tonji from Wisconsin at 53rd overall. BYU fans know John Tonji. 37 points against them in BYU's second round win that they just held on to beat them. They were up double digits, and then Tonji and the Badgers made quite the run to get it to a last-second shot that Tonji misses. Anyway, 37 points. He definitely was awesome in that NCAA tournament. He was first-team All-Big Ten last year. Andy Larson in the Salt Lake Tribune, go check out his article. In there, he calls him one of the oldest and most prolific scorers in this draft, 24 years old. 6 years in college because he had the COVID year, and he must have had a red shirt or something in there too. 4 years at Colorado State, and then 1 at Missouri, finishes at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is, people around here probably remember him at Colorado State. Wisconsin is this last year is the one that really stands out nationally for sure.
Quick question for you. Would you rather have a guy that's 24 years old and played 6 years in college, or a guy that's 24 years old and did a few years in the G League?
Ooh. I think I probably want the college guy still at this point.
I think so too.
I think the NBA, and I do believe that at some point the G League will become that kind of league that is a better developer for college-age kids. For teenagers to early 20s kids who didn't go to school, but NCAA and college basketball seems to be the best developer still.
It's interesting because this is the evolution of the league now that guys can get paid, right? So there's no rush to jump to the G League. I really wanted to make lots of people go to school for 7 years and they're called doctors joke, but maybe he'll be a doctor of scoring for the Utah Jazz.
They're called athletes now. Yeah, is the joke.
So he got his PhD in 3-and-D, but I don't know that. Again, we look at draft prospects with a certain lens, and a second round prospect to me is not a guy that I'm trying to project long term into being an all-star.
Speaking of the G League, that's where he's going to be.
Yeah,
for the most of it, for probably all of the first year, unless he really stands out. There's injuries, whatever. They're tanking again. They want to give him a shot. Yeah, they're full
there's just
anyway.
Not a space. So barring some massive trades and things like that, it's fine.
Probably not going to see much of him this year unless you're watching Stars games. Shout out to the Stars. They also signed Big East Player of the Year R.J. Lewis from St. John's, a guy that Gordy said he really liked yesterday. You remember that, Brian, here in studio? They signed him to a 2-way deal, so he's going to get sometime with the Jazz, most of the time in the G League. I think I like that as a two-way pickup. I do, and I love Tanji as a late second-round pick. I think two really good potential to, if they hit, outstanding. If they don't, they're shrewd picks anyway, shrewd decisions.
I like it because it makes the Stars watchable for me.
There you go.
And I'm not saying that I'm going to go to every Stars game and tune in all the time on the stream, but I tend to watch some Stars games. I know it's crazy. I need to get a live.
Sicko.
Yeah, I need to do something.
I
need to get out of the house more often. Maybe I'll take up bowling in the wintertime. I don't know. But I think that's good. I think the other part of it, too, is that you get a guy who had, if he'd gone back to school for a year, likely would have been a fringe late rounder in the first round, but you now have control over him. So you get to help the development. You get to keep him on your team. He's on a two-way deal, so you have control over the player. I don't remember if that comes with any kind of rights once the deal is up, but more than likely, if he does well and ends up getting some playing time by some stretch, that's good for. I would expect him to want to show some loyalty to the Jazz because they came and got him.
Absolutely.
So.
By the way, shout out to our texter. San Marcos was in this guy's mission, so he knows San Marcos. Confirmed what you said.
San Marvelous.
Confirmed Google. Austin and San Antonio. Between Austin and San Antonio, he said surprisingly green.
Yeah.
So there you go. Hence the San Marvelous. So
I've done my research, James. I've done my research.
You have.
Shout out.
This is why I've asked you to help me host the show this week, Bryan, because you're such a renowned researcher. Let's get to our Utah football theme, and we'll include BYU in this too. So Cougar fans, if you're listening in, give us your thoughts as well. But let's start with Utah. We're going to look at their schedule. Maybe we start with the non-conference games, and if we have time, we'll get into the first couple conference games, Bryan. Obviously, starting with UCLA, August 30th, we're counting down to that date, 64 days till that game, 9 o'clock on Fox. That's compared to most opening year games, especially for Utah, Bryan, challenging game, right? Other than the Florida games we saw recently. Challenging game. It's a road game, but this is not a UCLA team that's expected to be ranked at this point at preseason. So feels like definitely a winnable game. I'm going to say, because it's not Cal Poly that's next week, that we typically see them start the season with that kind of a tune-up game. Because it's not that, you got to give enough respect to UCLA, it being on the road, that you got to be a little bit concerned about that, but I expect that to be a win.
I mean, if they were still in the conference together, I'd expect Utah to beat UCLA, just because that's how things had unfolded for so long. I don't know that much about Deshaun Foster's program like I used to, because I do not follow Big Ten teams as closely as I follow Big 12 teams.
Second year
head coach.
Second year in the program as head coach too, which also brings a lot of uncertainty.
Some changes on the staff, a lot of movement through the portal for that team. I almost said franchise.
We're almost getting there, man.
I know. But to that end, I think the highlight name is Nico Iamaleava.
Yes.
But I also think they've done a lot of work trying to get the defense up to par and just get talent into the program in general at UCLA. It's a program that's really struggling to find footing. And you can talk about the off the field stuff in terms of, like, they don't have a stadium on campus. How much does the administration really invest in the athletic department in terms of, student excitement, all that other stuff? Where is the alumni base? Obviously, they're putting up money, but I don't think they have the same level of commitment to NIL that maybe USC does. And California is just a weird place right now for sports. It's not a priority for a lot of people there the way it once was. You don't see as many. There's been a transition of recruits out of California into other states because affordability, simply, and so that's benefited Utah in a lot of ways. The recruiting skill peers. So anyways, that's a lot of conversation about UCLA. It's a winnable game, 100%. There are some factors that are a little crazy. It's a 9 p.m. kick.
if we were to do our guy Zachariah's asterisks of concern, Brian.
Yes.
For me, this would be it's so big asterisk is like
Lots of
I'm
concern.
really concerned. I'm that's a smaller asterisk is like I'm noting this, but I'm not as concerned. Big asterisk, little asterisk for you on this one.
Just because of who I am, there is a big asterisk.
Okay.
And it's not because I don't have faith in the Utah program. I just don't know anything about this team anymore.
You could argue if UCLA fans could probably argue the same argument that you made from an outside perspective about the uncertainty around Utah that you just made about the uncertainty around UCLA. So that's definitely fair. I'm doing a small asterisk. I'm noting it. Obviously, it's a road game and it's a Power 5 opponent or Power 4 opponent, excuse me. But this is a familiar one. It's a familiar place. There's much more continuity on the coaching staff, obviously, even though the offensive staff is almost completely new for Utah. And the quarterback, obviously, nationally, Imaliava is going to be the guy that people are going to give the nod to. But I think nationally, we don't need to be sleeping on Devin Dampier either. I think it's fairly even there. So I think Utah. I mean, small asterisks there, little concerned, but I definitely expect them to win.
I expect them to win as well. I just, when you look at this game, and some of what we want to do here is give people a dose of the truth serum.
Yeah.
You're replacing basically your entire offense other than the offensive line. It's a program that only won 3 games last year. I'm talking about Utah, right? And UCLA didn't win that many games either. You're going up against a nationally
5 games.
5 games, sorry.
Right. Yeah.
3 conference games.
3 conference. Yeah.
It was that's how bad it was last year. I couldn't even keep track of the wins. You're going up against a nationally recognized and I guess highly rated quarterback in Nico Iamaleava. Now he got there under strange circumstances, got there after spring ball, so I don't know how much that factors into it for UCLA. I also don't think they've done a lot of work in the portal. I don't know that their talent level is where I would expect it to be. So, like, there are a lot of unknowns on the Utah side of things that make me want to hit the pause button in the sense of, like, if I'm really being honest with people, there's a good chance that we don't know what this Utah team looks like.
And that they start the season 0-1. Yeah,
that being said,
we both expect to win.
Yeah, and JT talked about it yesterday, right? The defensive line really is a question. You know, even though you have some guys returning, you lost your best defensive lineman to your rival last year. You have good players in the program, but it's going to be a young group that you're going to have to work through there. You're going to have to get some guys developed. Good news, Sione Motuapuaka and Carson Kafusi were both there during spring, so they're going to have a jump start on it. I really like Jonah Leaya in terms of what he projects to be as a defensive tackle. I think that's the right spot for him, given his size and frame. I think he can get there quickly. But really, you have Vakalahi and Vimahi coming back on the defensive front, and the entire defense is built around stopping the run. And so if you don't do that well, it could be a problem. And you don't know how a new team with a lot of new injection handles something if things get away from them quickly. Again, that being said, Lander Barton, Levani Damuni, Teo Johnson, Smith Snowden, Rabbit Evans, Logan Fano. I love the guys that are coming back on defense. I love the offensive line.
Davis.
Scooby Davis.
Scooby Snack.
Yeah, can't discount Scoobs. I love what Utah has there. And if this team rebounds the way that we expect it to, I could see that being an absolute slaughtering. And people are going to be coming away from it like, what's wrong with UCLA?
Yeah. So. Next week, Utah, Cal Poly, and no concern there. If there's a concern there, then there's something really wrong with Utah after week 1. So no concern at this point about Cal Poly. It's the home opener, of course, as well. That's at 4 o'clock on ESPN+. And then Utah at Wyoming. I don't have a concern here. It is notable that they have to go to a place like Laramie to play Wyoming. But this is a Wyoming team who was not good last year. I believe coach was fired as well, Brian. Am I remembering that right? Or was that the year before?
I thought the coach resigned.
Resigned. Okay.
Retired.
So new coach coming off a terrible season. It's a road game though, and Laramie's Laramie. But I had no concern there either. That rounds out the non-conference. Do you have any disagreements there and other thoughts on those two games?
Not really. I think the point has been well made that Utah has no business going to Wyoming to play a football game. Probably shouldn't be on the schedule. And so really what it'll be is a good test of this team to handle their business.
Yeah. We do have a couple more minutes, so let's get into the first couple conference games as well. Maybe just get through September here, Bryan. Tell me what you think about Texas Tech and Utah. Texas Tech made a lot of headlines about the kind of guys they were able to get in the transfer portal. Obviously, new offensive coordinator, Mac Leftwich, that Utah was in on before he decided to go to Texas Tech, and Utah settled on Jason Beck. What do you think about this Texas Tech game? It is at home, September 20th.
Thankfully, it's at home, but I think Utah fans are going to meet and learn a lot about this Texas Tech football team and why there has been so much attention drawn to it. Your guy Sheehan, I'm going to butcher his last name.
Yeah, Jayaraja. Yeah,
you got it. Yeah, he wrote a great article about Texas Tech, what's been happening there. Joey McGuire is a tremendous football coach, and he's not a name that a lot of people know because Texas Tech has kind of bubbled a little bit, but they now have some stability at quarterback. His name is slipping my mind right now too, but it's a Texas quarterback name for sure. But they have some stability at quarterback. They've done great in the transfer portal, bringing in a lot of talent. Joey McGuire has great relationships with Texas high school football coaches. He is a really, really good football coach, but it's also a program that is going to be under a lot of pressure and scrutiny internally because they've invested an absolute boatload of money, and they have this booster that's a former Texas Tech offensive lineman. I believe he has oil money or something like that. I can't. Again, it's Friday, man. I'm in Friday mode. I've been putting my sunglasses on and off. I don't know why I'm doing that, but they've invested a ton of money in the program, on the roster, NIL, all this stuff. A beautiful facility there. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is very invested in seeing his alma mater do well. And so this is a tough, hard-nosed football team that's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. They're going to have heard about Utah. Utah fans are going to chirp online because that's what Utah fans do. They love to talk about Rice Eccles and the environment. And so Texas Tech is going to come in and give them a game. That being said, we used to say something at Snow College that has resonated with me for a long time, and I think it's very similar at the University of Utah. Our best versus their best, we win every time. And so that's really what it is. And by that point, you're into the schedule 3 games. You should have any issues settled on the offensive end in terms of butterflies or
all the new,
defense should be nice and solid. So that, to me, the big story with that one is that should be a national game.
It should be. I hope that it's a good time slot or earlier in the afternoon, prime time at night, something like that. I would hope so. That's a big. I'm going to put a big asterisk on this Texas Tech game
in terms of whether Utah wins or loses.
Just as that's how concerned I am with Texas Tech. That's how much respect I have for the team that they built. So it's definitely an asterisk game, and it's a bigger asterisk for me than a little asterisk. That being said, it's hard to count out Utah at home, even after the season they had last year. They still had their best games at home, right? And that's the fact that it's at home kind of tips it over for me. Both teams have a lot of new, so it's not like you can say Texas Tech is less concerning from that standpoint than Utah. So I think the home field is going to be the big determining factor for me at this point. But it's a big asterisk for me.
Baron Morton is the name of the Texas Tech quarterback.
Yes. Very Texas
Very
name.
Texas name.
Let's round it out quickly. West Virginia the next week.
That's a tough game.
It's in Morgantown. So
I'm fighting McAfee's.
Put a tiny asterisk, a little asterisk there because it's a road game, and you just don't know year in and year out what you're going to get from West Virginia.
It's a long way to go. It's their first time going to Morgantown. We don't know what
every
time.
Every other year they're a good team.
We don't know what time that game's going to be at, and most likely it's going to be a big noon kickoff, so like at 9 a.m. for us. So all those factors to me are just like, ugh. That would make it a really tough game. But I think that's one of those determining games where we're going to really know how good this Utah football team is as you look at the schedule, to me, it seems like there are at least 2 or 3. I don't want to say losses, but questionable games. I just don't see Utah going undefeated.
They're
This
not
year.
going undefeated. They're not probably winning or losing less than 2 games, right? In fact, I might say there's probably 3 losses for this team at this point. Hopefully not more than that. So, yeah. We'll get to BYU as well throughout the show as we have time. BYU fans, Utah fans, if you want to text in 877-353-0700. Your early thoughts on the schedule. The Twitter poll is, or what I've asked for engagement on Twitter from is your most concerning games, your least concerning games, and what do you think the trap games are on the schedule for both BYU and Utah? Here on a Friday on the Sean O'Connell Show, the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, is next. We'll talk about the schedule with him as well. Play that game with him. The Pac-12 is back. He's probably going to have plenty of thoughts on that and more with the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, on the Sean O'Connell Show. James Peterson, Bryan Brown filling in for OC today on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. We got to let this ride. Sean O'Connell Show, James Peterson, Bryan Brown filling in for OC in the same air chair that our next guest was in for a couple of decades. Bill Riley, the voice of Utes. You hear the bumper. You know that means Bill Riley on the show. Shout out to the Bill Riley Show. Shout out to that great open he had, Bryan Brown. And now we got the voice of the Utes on with us right now. Bill, how you doing on a Friday?
I'm good, James. Monday is 1 year from my final day on the air at ESPN 700.
Oh, my gosh.
Coming up on the old 1 year anniversary.
I've been thinking about that since the calendar hit June, Bill, because it's also a significant anniversary for me. Filling in your shoes as program director. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe it's been a year. What's
Flies
that?
by, doesn't it?
It has. Let's start there. I didn't necessarily plan on asking you about this, but since it is basically the 1 year anniversary, Bill, tell our listeners what your year as the director of broadcasting and still being the voice of the Utes and working up there full time has been for you.
Oh, it's been great. It's been just kind of a new challenge building this ESPN Plus platform out that was new, creating something kind of out of nothing with a great crew up here. We've been working together, and we did 50 live events last year, and we're going to do about 120 live events next year. So we're going to go from walking to sprinting very quickly, and also being able to create all the side content that goes with it for social media and for broadcast and everything else. It's been a lot of fun. So it's been different. It's been weird. My friend Amy Donaldson, who everybody knows really well, I bumped into her. Was it late summer, early fall, and she was asking about the new job, and I said, it's great. It's just different. I can't explain it. And she looked at me and she said, you know why? Because you don't have a daily deadline. I said, what? She goes, a daily deadline. She goes, I felt the same thing when I left the newspaper. And she was right. My daily deadline was 11 o'clock every single day. That was my deadline. I had to be on the air. And I'm busy. I'm doing a bunch of things, but there's nothing every single day that I have to be at a particular time, which she called the daily deadline, which is what it was. I'm still plenty busy, but it was weird because I had to be in the studio or behind the mic at 11 o'clock every day. And I don't necessarily have that in this new job, not every single day.
Yeah, I can imagine that is a big adjustment. And I'm sure once I'm done, however many years from now, I'll have that same hey, I don't have this show that I have to be prepared for as a producer or host, whatever it might be at the time. So yeah, I can totally see that. Bryan and I have been talking about Utah football schedule today. We're doing a bit of deep dive on it, Bill. We looked at through September so far. Of that chunk there, that's obviously UCLA to start the season, Cal Poly, Wyoming, Texas Tech, West Virginia. Is there one of those that you would say is most concerning for you from Utah's perspective?
I don't think concerning. Intriguing is Texas Tech, because they spent a gazillion dollars in building their football, pretty much building all their teams with all that oil money, but especially football. They spent a ton, revamped their defensive line, added skill guys, all of that stuff. And I think a lot of people would tell you they did it, they spent a pretty good deal of money a year ago too, and they didn't have they weren't bad, but they weren't great either. But I think this is that year where, Joey McGuire, I think, is entering his third year as head coach, maybe third or fourth. But it's kind of like, okay, we've invested in this program. They took a little bit of a shot at a shot on Joey McGuire. He didn't have a ton of head coaching experience on the collegiate level. So I think they're an intriguing team for me to see what they do this year with the investment they've made in football. And obviously the opener's intriguing too, because UCLA – adding Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee at quarterback, but they weren't great last year early, but they got a little bit better as the year went along. So I think those two games in particular, but probably if I had to pick one, I'd say the Texas Tech game to open up Big 12 play.
I know that you're contractually obligated by Utah fans to only talk about Utah athletics and everything related to Utah, but I also know you well enough to know that you probably kept an eye on this Ace Bailey situation, and I'm curious, Have you ever seen anything like this before? And what are your thoughts on what's going on with all this right now?
Well, yeah, I've seen it before because I'm old, Brian, and there's not much new that happens to the world. Stuff just gets recirculated. Yeah, here's a kid that has questionable, probably representation that's been in his ear, and they probably thought they'd be able to make some sort of a power play. You know, we've seen it happen a little bit in football. John Elway did it years ago. Bo Jackson did it years ago. Eli Manning, to a little bit of an extent, did it in football. We haven't seen it maybe done as much in basketball, but, you know, they thought that they'd be able to dictate to the NBA and particular teams who could take them and who couldn't take them. The problem is you don't really – I mean, does Ace Bailey have tens of millions of dollars hidden away that we don't know of? Is he willing to skip a year and give up $40 million guaranteed over a 4-year period? Probably not. But that's not the kid. The kid's 18 years old. He doesn't have some grand plan in his head. He's got somebody representing him that thought, okay, Ace, here's what we're going to do, and here's how the plan's going to work out. Well, you know, it doesn't really work that way. The Jazz need somebody that's a dynamic player. Now, there's no guarantee. The kid played 1 year at Rutgers. He had some great games, and then he was absent a lot of times too. But they're taking a swing on a guy and his potential ceiling and talent. So, yeah, you've seen it. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot, but every now and again you get that popped up. But again, I don't blame the kid as much as I blame the people around him.
Yeah, Bill, to that last point you just made, our mutual friend Sarah Todd wrote a great piece in Deseret News saying, basically saying it's not Ace that's doing this. It's Omar Cooper specifically among his representation, who's trying to orchestrate this for him and putting all this noise out for him. And she had said it's incredibly unfair that he's being framed the way he is because it's not really being dictated by him. And as an 18-year-old, he's kind of feeling like he needs to be the good soldier with his representation, whereas maybe if he's older, he might say, hey, that's not how I'm feeling. Stop saying I feel that way. With that being said, I wonder if you weigh into on our poll question here, Bill, if after knowing that it's not really Ace that's putting this out there, it's his representation, are you still worried about his intentions to play or not play for the Jazz? Yes, because you don't trust Ace. Yes, because you don't trust Omar Cooper and his representation, or just no. Where do you land on that?
Well, it's not on Ace, and let's see if he shows up.
Yeah.
I mean, if he shows up and he's at practice on whatever it is over the weekend or Monday or whatever, whenever they gather to practice, then I'm not so worried about it. I'm more worried about, can this kid be a difference maker for the Utah Jazz? Let's be honest. They missed last year on Cody Williams. Now, Cody could still be a good player, but when you draft somebody where you draft him, I mean, he wasn't ready to go. So, you know, this kid, again, has shown flashes of being a great player. What do you have, a 39 and a 38-point game in Big Ten play this year? I think he's eventually going to play. I think eventually even his agent, if he's a knucklehead or whatever, is going to realize they don't have any leverage here. But my worry is more about the basketball part of it than him actually showing up to play.
That's exactly what I said yesterday as we started to hear Jazz fans and people nationally saying, "Oh no, did the Jazz make a mistake?" I'm like, the only way they made a mistake is if he's not going to be a good NBA player. That's what you need to be worried about.
Yeah, and again, let's see what they. Very, very rarely are rookies difference makers. I want to see what else, as a fan, what else Austin and Danny Ainge have up their sleeves to turn this franchise around. Because what they have now is not it. You've got some good veteran pieces, but a lot of those guys are expiring soon. These two guys might be good players, but they're probably not going to be different. I like Clayton Jr. too. I mean, he was a really nice collegiate player. I don't know what ultimately his role is, but there's got to be more to it than banking simply on young players.
We're going to transition away from the NBA a little bit now and talk about some news that broke that may have slid under the radar for some people because it has been a surprisingly busy week in sports. But PayPal officially partnered with the Big 12 and the Big 10 to be the platform that distributes athletes' revenue-sharing payments. I made a joke on Twitter that it's the new bag for bagmen, but it is going to be $100 million over 5 years.
And whether you like it or not, it's the reality. And so, yeah, that's, whatever the method is that they're using, it's getting the money to the athletes that are going to play because, again, these kids are coming for a lot of different reasons, but certainly money is one of those reasons. So whether they're using Venmo or PayPal or, Pony Express, Wells Fargo, Wagons, whatever it might be, it's going to be important for Utah and anybody else that's involved to be able to get that to their athletes.
Well, yeah, and it's only the deal is also that, as Bryan mentioned, $100 million that goes to specifically that's the number we know about that's going to the Big 12 conference, which comes out to about $1 million, more than $1 million annually per school. So that of course doesn't like really bridge the gap between or fill the gap between where the Big 12 was before this deal and the Big 10 and SEC. But it is interesting to see the way Brett Yormark and his office have been able to be creative at getting more revenue outside of the media deals, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's nothing out there that's going to bridge the gap between the Big Ten, the SEC, and everybody else. There's no side deal without bringing in, they've talked about bringing in private equity. But nobody really wants to do that. That's kind of your last gasp. But there's no deal that Brett Yormark's going to cut that's going to make up the difference between, an average of about $30 to $40 million per school per year. But anything you can do to bring in extra revenue helps. Even if it's only $1 million per school per year, that's still $1 million, and that does mean something. Everybody's operating on different tiers here. The Big Ten and the SEC, they're operating on different tiers. The Big 12, the ACC, some of the Group of Five, some of the independents. But whether it's $1 million a year or $500,000, if you can add a few more of those things and every school's getting a little bit more money, nobody's going to turn that down. Every little bit's going to help.
I was up at Utah a couple of weekends ago for Ute, the 7-on-7 tournament where all the high school teams come in, and talking to staffers and people around the program up there, it was very clear to me that they are hyper aware of how last year ended. And the main message to me was, we're going to fix this. You're up there all the time, obviously not in the facility 40 hours a week, but what have you noticed while you're up there about the focus of the team and just everything about what they're trying to do to make this season better?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new blood. I mean, offensive staff especially, and a lot of new faces in there. But the guys that are holdovers, the staff and the players from a year ago, that was a sour taste in their mouth. The year before was 8-4, and obviously Rising never really got on the field, and Barnes did a nice job. And to be fair, 8-4 was a solid year. 5-7 is not a solid year for Utah. The bar has been set too high. And, I don't think it's fix it as much as let's stay healthy and show people that the program has not fallen off the map as some people. It's amazing what one bad year, and all of a sudden you've forgotten the prior decade where Utah was averaging 9 to 10 wins a year. So I think it's more than fix it. It's just like, let's show people we've not really gone anywhere. We had a bad run of luck a year ago with injuries, especially on the offensive side of the football. The defense, if there would have been any semblance of solid offense a year ago, the defense was elite. The problem was the defense was on the field so much and being asked to do so much that the numbers didn't really reflect elite, but they were really good. So I think it's not so much fix it as, hey, let's remind people that when Utah football is right and healthy, we're a force to be reckoned with nationally in college football.
And Bill, you mentioned the decade before all that run of success. That was in the Pac-12. Well, we've got some Pac-12 news. They're officially back as a football conference, adding Texas State. I know they're probably going to try to say this makes them in the same realm as the Power Four, but we know there's a huge gap there. But just your thoughts on a conference that you spent so long covering from Utah perspective, now officially not going extinct.
It's not the Pac-12. Let's not kid ourselves here. This is not the Pac-12. This is not the Conference of Champions. This is not the league that had 100 years of history. It's just not. But it's a good league. It's the Mountain West on steroids is what it is. It's the best of the Mountain West, plus Oregon State, Washington State. I guess we're throwing Texas State, which is not a bad program down in San Marcos, south of Austin. But it's the Pac-12 conference only in name, not in history, not in quality of schools, not in any of that stuff. And I'm not saying that to be mean. It's a good league, but it's not the Pac-12. It's got that name on it. It's almost like it bought the franchising rights to have the name, and they're sticking it on there. But outside of a stop in Pullman and a stop in Corvallis, there's nothing Pac-12 about this.
Yeah, it is good to hear that it's not going away, that this zombie version of the Pac-12, if you will, is sticking around. And it's cool that Utah State is part of it as well. Basketball, it should be really good with Gonzaga being part of it too. But yeah, football, it's still group of five. It's group of five Pac-12. I think it's fair to say, Bill.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's the Mountain West Conference that's kind of souped up a little bit. Hey, they've got a solid, not a great. I mean, if you're Oregon State and Washington State, the TV deal isn't what it once was. But if you're Utah State and you're in your good, some of these other schools, yeah, $7 to $8 to $9 million a year is not a bad chunk compared to where you were. So again, it's a good, solid conference. They're going to have a couple of teams every year that will compete for a playoff spot. But for those of us that have been around, and for those that were even part of the old Pac-10, this isn't the same league.
From a broadcast perspective, do you have a road trip that you're looking forward to the most this year?
I'm looking. I mean, I've been to Morgan. I was in Morgantown for the basketball this year, but it's dead of winter and it's basketball. I'm actually looking forward to going to historic Milan Puskar Stadium to call that one, because I think West Virginia's got a chance to be good. It's a road game too. Obviously, the trip to Provo and the rivalry game is always a blast as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm curious, just from an alma mater standpoint, I've not been back to Lawrence, Kansas to call a football game since I was in school there. And that stadium's going to be mostly renovated by then. So I'm kind of interested in that. But the early game to West Virginia is probably the most intriguing one to me, because I'm not quite sure what West Virginia will be. And it's going to be coming off what I think is going to be a really tough and emotional Texas Tech game. So I'll say West Virginia for now.
Awesome. We're looking forward to the season. 64 days, Bill, and appreciate your time.
Can't wait.
Yeah, appreciate your time today, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, fellas. Talk to you soon.
All right, that's Bill Riley, voice of the Utes. Morgantown's a good call on that one, and we expected him to say something about Kansas, too, him being a Jayhawk grad.
Yeah, and I think I don't want to make any couch-burning jokes about Bill because he's the best. But, it is an iconic area. I think those college towns that have that atmosphere, it is something to experience. And Utah fans are going to find this out. I don't know how many went to the game last year, but Stillwater is one of those in the Big 12 that has great college experience, when you're in the city. That's the real benefit of being in a conference like the Big 12 is you're not going to Seattle or L.A. or Tempe or Phoenix or any of these highlight cities out west. You're going to true college cities, and feeling that college experience, which if you went to the University of Utah, you really didn't get that as much because Salt Lake City is such a vibrant town in a lot of different ways. There's not a concentrated area, but Stillwater, it's the school, and that's pretty much it. Yeah,
as is Morgantown, and Lawrence is a lot more like that for sure. A lot of Utes fans experience Baylor. That's similar there in Waco. So, yeah, some good road trips this year in the Big 12, and good call by Bill there, highlighting Morgantown and Kansas as ones that he's looking forward to. We got a PGA Tour leaderboard update coming up in the hot lunch about 3 minutes from now from our guy Zach Robinson, who's producing the show today behind the glass. That's next on the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, finishing up hour one of the Sean O'Connell Show. James Peterson, Bryan Brown, filling in for OC again today. OC's back Monday, by the way, but he's also back to do airing of grievances with us at 1:30.
I got a grievance.
You got a grievance?
Yeah, I didn't get to see OC at all.
Well, you're supposed to save it for 1:30, Bryan.
My bad.
Come on. Dang it. No, yeah, you did not get to see. You did not get to see him all week. Now it's time for a PGA Tour leaderboard update from the Rocket Classic. That's where the PGA is right now this weekend, and it's brought to you by Uinta Golf. Unleash your swing with the Ping G440 woods and irons crafted for precision and power. The new G440 driver and irons deliver faster ball speeds with incredible control, plus enhanced forgiveness. Now at Uinta Golf. Zach Robinson, our producer today, has your PGA Tour leaderboard update. Take it away, Zach.
I'm not going to struggle this time, I promise.
You practiced the pronunciation.
I practiced.
Love it.
But, okay, so tied in first, we got Chris Kirk and Philip Nolas tied up -14. They just finished through.
Man, they're going low today, aren't
Yeah, they are. In third, we got Jackson Subert, -13. Aldrich Potgieter is in tied fourth with -12, along with Mark Hubert. Kevin Roy, Harry Hall, Jake Knapp are all tied. Oh, sorry, Ben Griffin. I'm not going to say that one. That's a hard one to pronounce.
Skipping the hard
one.
Good job.
Gary Woodland, Matt Grazerman, Harrison Edicott, Luke Clanton, Thurston Lawrence, Andrew Putnam are all tied 6th with -11.
Yeah, so that's tight. 3 shots between first and sixth, and all going really low. Thank you, Zach, for that PGA Tour leaderboard update brought to you by Uinta Golf. Coming up next, he's in studio with us now. He's going to be in studio with us going forward. It's the Behind the Glass segment. It'll be with OC most of the time going forward, but we'll unveil the segment. Bryan and I will unveil a segment to you with Bryan, or excuse me, Adrian Denny. I've got your name stuck in my head, Bryan. Adrian Denny. He is the
Like you've been doing radio with me all week.
Studio host for SEG Media on the radio side, also a Ute grad. So a lot of love for the home of the Utes and his alma mater. We'll talk NHL draft getting started tonight. The first round starts at 5 o'clock tonight. The rest of the rounds will be tomorrow. We'll talk about that from Utah Hockey Club perspective and more from Utah Mammoth perspective and more from the Mammoth offseason. Here on the Sean O'Connell Show, James Peterson, Bryan Brown filling in for OC on Utah's #1 sports talk and home of the Utes, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Hour 2 of the Sean O'Connell Show. James Peterson, Bryan Brown filling in for OC today on a Friday. We're going to air some grievances at 1:30. If you want to get those, if you want to fire those grievances to us via the text line 877-353-0700 right now. We'll wait till 1:30 to officially air them for you, but you can go ahead and get them in now. And you can call us around 1:30, 877-353-0700. We'll bring you on, and you can air your grievances that way, too. We'll do that with OC in the 1 o'clock hour. So excited, though, to do this first Behind the Glass segment with a Utah Mammoth insider and someone that sports fans should be very familiar with. He spent a long time here before he went down to Arizona to work for the Coyotes at first, and moved back up here to work for the Utah Hockey Club last year, now Utah Mammoth. Adrian Denny in studio with us. Adrian, how are you doing?
Great to be back on ESPN 700, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, did you call the games for the Grizzlies?
I did.
700? Okay.
Right here on Utah's #1 sports talk.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So spent a lot of time in the Grizzlies, too. You probably heard him that way over the years. It's great to have you in studio, Adrian. I wanted to just start out here with, I guess, just to start out with the draft is tonight, but we wanted to get your thoughts on how just the first year went for NHL in Utah. As I mentioned, you were in Arizona for at least the last year. How long were you in Arizona?
I was there 6 years.
6 years,
Yep.
okay. So
Yep.
the last stretch of the Arizona Coyotes down there, including last year. How was it this year being back home and having NHL in your hometown?
It was magical. Everything about it. And the best part were the home games at Delta Center. And it was packed every single night. And the fans from the day the team landed in Utah for the first ever tour of the Beehive State back in April of 2024 to our first preseason game against the Kings to opening night, October 8th against the Chicago Blackhawks. The fans here, the community was ready to welcome the NHL, and that's what set the tone. Being in that building during games and seeing the fans develop an identity and make Delta Center, a premier venue in the NHL to watch hockey in year one, in month one, starting in game one, and then to see during the course of the year, the fans develop that relationship with the players on calling them by their nicknames, and the players feeling that support and tossing pucks during warm-ups into the crowd, and players would talk about their interactions in the community and going out to eat and always being recognized, and they loved it. And it was a great first year in the hunt for that playoff spot until the final 4 games, finished with a winning record. And the goal going into year 2, GM Bill Armstrong has said it, make the playoffs.
So, Bryan, I'll let you ask the next question, but I should also mention, I did teasing this segment, but I don't think I just mentioned it before asking that first question. You are the studio host for SCG Media on the radio side, and so just really happy to have you as part of this new segment.
So you mentioned the fans. How surprised were you at the creativity and the way that they just bonded with the team so instantly?
Shouldn't have been surprised, wasn't surprised, right? Because growing up here in the 90s during the Jazz finals runs, favorite time of my childhood was watching the Jazz every year make that run and ultimately get into the finals in 97, 98, and seeing Delta Center and seeing the place rocking and being up at Rice Eccles Stadium, Pac-12 after dark, and that team having their success. And, even before that, the Huntsman Center in the 90s was the place to be. Marriott Center down south going nuts. This is the Sports Commission calls it the state of sport. Like, that couldn't be more accurate to what it is. And Utah is growing so fast. It's really noticing it, being gone for 6 years and then coming back for my little ski trips and my summer weekends here to beat the heat, and you see it. I flew out of Provo a lot, and that drive from I-15 from Salt Lake to Provo, you see stuff popping up, the tech industry, more and more traffic and more people to come here and jump in. But I mean, going back to the 70s and probably beyond that, Ron Boone winning an ABA championship. Like this is a sports state, a sports city, and everybody jumps in and they go all in, and they went all in on NHL hockey from the second the announcement was made.
Yeah, speaking of the announcement being made, obviously the team moved from Arizona. You were down there with them. You mentioned to us. What was that transition like? You were there for the last 6 years of the Coyotes. You'd mentioned to us off air it wasn't until when the announcement was made in that final year that it really started to feel that different, right?
Yeah, everything. We were hockey in the desert, and it's what it was. It was it's a great life. Loved it. Anticipated being there forever, but stuff changes. SEG jumped in, purchased a team, relocated it to Utah. It was a 5-month fire hose, getting everything ready, getting everybody relocated. It was a community effort, right? Ryan Smith at the opening press conference saying, "We need realtors, we need babysitters, we need shuttle drivers, like everything to help 200 people get relocated to Utah." And I don't think it could have gone any smoother. And some of us got here later than others. I got here for week 2 of training camp, walked into Delta Center the Monday as we started week 2 of training camp, didn't have a badge, just showed up at security, and they got me in, and I walked in and watched practice, and here we are.
You did
all of a sudden.
You know who I am.
Yeah, pretty
Let
much.
me in, please.
Yeah. just about that. You remember me.
Transitioning a little bit to what's happening right now with the Mammoth, I don't know that it's a monumental offseason, but it is a very pivotal offseason for the franchise and their future growth. We've talked a lot about the draft this week, James and I have, and it does seem very clear that at 4, they're going to have to make some decisions beyond just what best player is available. How do you see that all unfolding, and maybe what kind of opportunities you see arising? Because it is a really great pick for them to have based on where they finished. And so it does seem like an opportunity to capitalize on some good fortune.
Yeah, at 4, jumping those 10 spots in the NHL lottery would have been 14th based on record, but won the lottery, jumped up 10 spots to number 4. You're going to get an elite player at 4. Logan Cooley was taken 3rd overall, our 20-year-old phenom. This year, we saw what he could do. You're getting a player like that when you draft in the top 5. Dylan Gunther was taken 9th overall. Clayton Keller, the captain, taken 7th. Like, those are the type of elite players that you're getting when you're picking higher up in the draft. And for Utah, the question is, all right, are we going to take that player at number 4? Player taken 4th overall, probably not going to be on your roster next year, probably a year or 2 away based on just historically speaking how the NHL draft goes. So, you're going to get a good player at 4. Bill Armstrong is a scout at heart, watching amateurs, watching pros play hockey. That's his element.
So he's telling his scout team, "Hey, you watch, but I'm also watching." Right?
Yeah.
Don't you worry about that.
And
I'm watching you watch them.
and with that, he's got a lot of friends who are scouts and a lot of connections in the scouting world that he has brought in. So he's got a great amateur scouting staff. Daryl Plandowski, director of amateur scouting, was part of building Tampa Bay for their 2 Stanley Cups as the assistant director of amateur scouting. Ryan Jankowski, Bill said, nobody's scouted more and built more NHL teams than Ryan. He's the assistant director of amateur scouting. So these guys, this is their Christmas, and they love going into draft mode and drafting guys to develop. That's your first component. Second component, this team is close. We talked about playoffs being the goal for this year. So one option is trading that pick. So if they trade that pick, and we're not going to know until Chicago drafts third overall, probably, right? Something could happen before that, but we might not know until Chicago drafts third if Utah is going to draft fourth. And if Utah elects to trade that pick, here's what they're looking for. And we saw it with the trade made a couple of nights ago, bringing J.J. Peterson here. He's a star, but he's also a 23-year-old star who signed a 5-year extension, who comes right into the window of the current core right now of players. Dylan Guenther, Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller, right? So if they make a trade, trading away that fourth pick, you want the star. You need a star. You don't want a 30-year-old star. You want a 23, 24, 25-year-old, 26-year-old star that can come in and be part of the long-term part of this growth process.
To that end, I think the J.J. Peterka trade is kind of evident of that, right?
Yeah.
23, 24-year-old. I'm not saying that he's a star necessarily right now, but a great fit for the roster. So something similar to that,
like
but maybe
that.
a little more oomph to the player, right?
Exactly. And what Bill did last year, we saw it day 2 of the draft, acquired Mikhail Sergachev, a 2-time winning Stanley Cup D-man. And you think, okay, he's probably, seems like, we watch him play, seems like a 30-year-old in his 10th year in the NHL. He's 26.
That's so true. Like, he seemed so well seasoned. He seemed like he was a first line defender, but he really wasn't on those teams.
Yeah.
He's entering his prime, right?
Exactly. And fits right into the window of this team. So you've seen 2 trades, and you've given away 2 good players, and the fans in Utah didn't know the guys that we gave up for Mikhail Sergachev because the team hadn't even gotten here yet. But same thing, gave away 2 really high. He's increased his scoring by 20 points a year from his rookie season in years 2 and 3. And watching some of his highlights, I watched every goal he scored last season. Like, holy cow, this guy's a star. And you add him with Dylan Guenther, Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller. It's a pretty big deal that Bill made the other night, and getting a player that a bunch of teams were trying to get.
Absolutely. We're talking with Adrian Denny, the studio host for the Utah Mammoth on the radio side for SEG Media, here as part of Behind the Glass here on the Sean O'Connell Show. And by the way, that is brought to you by Angora and Aladdin Industries, as is our NHL draft coverage, as we're talking a lot about that with Adrian here. And speaking of the draft, you talked about, you just outlined really well for us what they would be looking for in a trade. What are some names that have you heard any rumors of some names that might be considered to be on the move, or that other teams might be open to trading, and maybe not necessarily in a deal for the 4th pick, but might be on the move this offseason that could fit that bill?
Bill said it yesterday, because Josh Stone and Michael Kesselring, again, 2 highly thought of prospects with big upsides and fan favorites already in year 1. Kessel King and the Donors, right? They've got their own
legacy
identities.
Guy, Josh,
yes.
For the franchise.
Yeah. So Bill said to get something great, you got to give stuff up. And I was at Dominic Moore's house on Wednesday night, our color commentator on TV. We had just come from a production meeting getting ready for our draft show tonight. And so everybody from our broadcast team, we were at Dom's house playing bocce ball when this trade happened. And I had run in the house. I came out, and Mike Folta, our radio play-by-play announcer, says, "It's done. guess who the players are, because we had seen the tweet, deal in principle based on contingencies for JJ Peterka, and I never got it. I never guessed who the guys were that got moved. And in that, you're in shock. It's a state of adrenaline. But I those two, I don't think 72 hours ago we thought. I mean, everything's possible. There's no move clauses, et cetera, that you have to navigate through based on the contract, based on the player. So we'll see. And I don't even know if Bill and the team have a list. All right, this is what we want to move out. But one thing about Bill in the draft and in trades, he's a hard guy to predict. His first round draft history, he's I wouldn't say unpredictable, but he's not swayed. It's not, doesn't usually draft who it says Utah's going to draft in the mock draft.
That's probably why when the AP writer on the press conference when he said, "Hey, there's a consensus," and that's probably why Bill kind of laughed at that.
Yeah,
when
the
he
consensus
up, right?
top 3, but what do you take it for?
I don't always go with the consensus, my guy. Is what it kind of sounded like.
Yeah, I mean, Logan Cooley was drafted 3rd overall in 2022. He would have taken him 1st overall. Okay. Dylan Gunther made a trade to draft him 9th overall in 2021. When he drafted Dylan, nobody knew he was going to take 9th overall. It wasn't, they clearly got this pick to draft this guy. This is my favorite one, though, and we're going to see the results this year. In 2023, he drafted 2 Russians in the top 12. Dmitry Simashev, 6th overall. Daniil Boot, 12th overall. Both have been signed to 3-year entry-level contracts. Probably see him with the Mammoth this year. And the mock draft experts were not entirely enthralled with these picks. The team at the time did not get A's in the report cards after the draft, and why they didn't is nobody had seen them, right? Because we were just coming out of COVID, and the conflict in Ukraine and Russia had really started in February before that, and Bill and his group got over to Belarus and were able to watch him. And New Jersey was the only other team that saw these guys at this junior tournament.
Interesting. It
And
sounds pretty fortunate that given all that unrest that was happening and the war that had just started, that they were able to go watch these guys play.
Exactly. And they're scouts. They'll go wherever it takes to find the guys. So going into tonight and seeing what's going to happen, I don't think there's a way to say, bang, if so and so is available, or if we can acquire this guy, because he didn't think the trade with Buffalo was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it from what I've heard from outside reporters in the NHL, boy, if that day could be a 30 for 30, the way that trade was able to go down. So,
do you have a favorite of the potential draft picks?
Do you know what?
Yeah, I know you just spent a good time articulating that.
Yeah.
Even if you liked these guys, Bill
It
probably
could be
liked
off the
someone
board.
else.
Exactly.
But who do you like?
Do you know what? There's as we heard from our friend at the AP on Wednesday, there's a top 3 consensus, right?
Rundell seems to be the cutoff, if I've learned anything.
Yeah, we talked with Brogan Houston, who I'm sure you've gotten to know from the Deseret News.
Yeah, absolutely.
He said it seems to be that Frondell is the 3rd of that group, but some have him.
Yeah, some have him at 2 to San Jose.
2.
Yeah.
So that would be the guy if they fall. That he said that if the most realistic one to not be in that top 3 might be Frondell, and he had said if that ends up being the case, that would be a great get for the Mammoth.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Porter Martone, who's a forward who's got skill, but he's got some grit to him. We'll hear that name tonight. We heard Brady Martin after the combine, farm tough, right? The consensus is he's a top 10 player and maybe jumped a little bit. Caleb Denoye out of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League is a really skilled forward too. A lot of centers in the projections in the mock drafts, and Bill said we're going to draft the best player available, right? Because it's usually not a given that the person you draft is going to be on your team next year.
Spend some time in the lower league.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So they're 18-year-olds typically. So they'll go play in college or go back to juniors, and you get players like Sidney Crosby, Connor Bedard, Connor McDavid, guys like that who are, yes, NHL at 18. 95% of them, 99% are going back for another year or two. So there's a lot of centers, a lot of centermen on the board.
Do you agree with the mocks that that's a position that Utah should be targeting? It seems like that, again, going back to that word consensus, that seems to be the consensus of what Utah should be looking for.
Maybe a centerman, maybe some size, maybe some grit, be it in the draft or a trade. I think would definitely be something to keep your eyes and ears open for. And that the other thing about these mock drafts, and we hit on it with Bill and his scouting guys who are traveling the globe, who are watching junior hockey every single night, and you hear the experts with their hot button picks and stuff like that. And for me, watch NHL pretty much every night, watch a lot of American Hockey League. I do watch ECHL hockey a lot with the Grizzlies here in town.
I'm not the only sicko on the show.
Yeah. So, but the thing I don't watch a lot of major junior hockey just because there's only so much time of the day.
Right.
So you see highlights from so and so, and he gets the buzz, but. So I could say, oh, I read this in the hockey news, read this on the mock draft, the draft expert says this. But for me personally, I haven't seen this guy play. How do I compare this to this if I've seen highlights from one, but I haven't seen anything from others, which should be watching full, complete games, weeks, seasons of these guys.
Absolutely. And we got to let you go here in a couple minutes, Adrian, but we'll give you a chance to plug. You got a hockey night in Utah draft special going on SEG Plus. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and everybody can watch. All you need to do is go to segplus.com. If you're not already subscribed, you can create an account and you can watch our show tonight. It's going to be Utah Mammoth centered around the draft, around the renovations at Delta Center. We'll hear from head coach Andre Cherney. We'll hear from general manager Bill Armstrong, president of hockey operations Chris Armstrong. We're starting at 4:30, and we are going to go for a while. And we've got all 8 of us on our Hockey Night in Utah cast. We'll be on set. Matt McConnell, Dominic Moore, Tyson Nash, Nick Olchek, Kim Becker, Sarah Merrifield, Mike Folta, and myself, and we are so stoked about this show. We're going to be just uncovering everything. The 4th overall pick that we will know for sure we're going to draft after Chicago drafts at number 3. Got some fun look backs of the season that was, looking ahead, but SEG Plus will have it all. You can watch for free, and again, just create an account. You can watch on your phone. I got my dad set up. He set it up to the cabin today, so I got him set up last night before he took off. My mom will be watching on the Roku in the living room at home. Another friend will be watching on her phone, so you can watch it from anywhere, your TV, smart device, computer, laptop. We're really really excited to put that show on.
Is this going to be at the Delta Center Studios too, or where?
We're gonna
where will
be,
you guys be?
we're gonna be at the Asher Adams Hotel across
Okay.
the street. That is the draft headquarters
All
for the
right.
Utah Mammoth this year. So we are gonna be, kind of set up.
It's right outside the door of
Yes,
the war room.
set
there.
up
Okay.
outside of the war room. Our media will be coming down. They'll be watching in another room, and we'll be grabbing stuff, grabbing folks, and coming up with anything that we can. And the thing that I'm really excited about on the show, my kind of area tonight, my department, I'm going to be kind of our social media wizard. So
Nice.
you can hit us up. Just use hashtag #TuskUp on Twitter, on X. You can hit me up at 801 Adrian Denny on Twitter, on X. Yeah, Tusks up. I need to thank you. Yeah, anytime I say that tonight, I'm putting my Tusks up. Tusks up.
See, I was telling Bryan the other day, I kind of thought of this with like
Yeah.
arms being the tusks, but that no one else is. Doing
Okay,
that,
I
so
can,
maybe
I can see that. Yeah,
maybe
Maybe that's what we float out
I
on
like
social media tonight.
I like this because you can do it as an emoji.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're right. You're
the
right. That works
Tusks up
perfect.
emoji. So I'm excited to interact with the folks and share any breaking news that comes up. And we haven't been on. Our last game was April 15th, so we are really
First
really
broadcast. You're jonesing to
chomping
get back on the air.
chomping to get back and interact with the folks on Hockey Night in Utah, our draft special tonight on SCG Plus.
And will there be a draft special for tomorrow night as well, the rest of the draft, or is it just tonight?
Yeah, tonight on SCG Plus. Tomorrow, ESPN Plus will have rounds 2 through 7 with the national feed. So we'll all be watching with everybody else tomorrow.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Adrian. This has been awesome to unveil this segment with you.
Yeah.
You'll be on with OC next on Tuesday because that's the start of NHL free agency. We're excited to preview that with you on NHL free agency.
I can't wait. And on Tuesday, I am going to be in Park City at Prospect and Development Camp.
Oh, right. That is that time.
So all our players we draft, we're going to bring them from LA to Utah and introduce them to the Mammoth with some of our other prospects. And we're going to have a fun week in Park City. And so that's where I will be with you all on Tuesday on site from Prospect and Development Camp.
Fans are invited to watch part of that camp.
Yep,
right?
Monday and Tuesday in Park City. The practices are open.
And
It's
free to everyone. Just
free
show
to
up,
everyone.
right?
Yep, it's going to go all day, 2 sessions. So get there mid-morning, and we'll keep you busy till mid-afternoon.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in studio, Adrian. We'll talk to you next week from the development camp in Park City.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Bryan and James. It's been a blast. Can't wait to do this once a week with y'all.
Absolutely. So that's our first Behind the Glass with Adrian Denny, the studio host for Utah Mammoth on the radio side for SEG Media. He is going to be part of their Hockey Night in Utah draft special starting at 4:30 on SEG Plus. It's free even if you're not a subscriber. It is free for everyone. You just have to set up an account on SEGplus.com and get all the best Utah Mammoth draft coverage outside of ESPN 700, of course. No, the best Utah Mammoth draft coverage from across the street of the Delta Center at the Asher Adams Hotel. So
We get the best
excited
coverage
about
when
that.
he's here every week.
Absolutely. And Behind the Glass is going to be brought to you today and going forward by Angora and Aladdin Industries. We really appreciate their support of this program and of this station. We're going to continue the hockey talk, Bryan. You want to introduce our next guest?
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. A good friend of mine used to work together as producers back in the
Sure,
day.
Adrian knows him too.
It's coming in at 12:30 because I got to see him. Not to ruin your tease there, Bryan.
Not at all. No, he's a name that I think most people in the industry know well. Austin Facer, founder of SLC Puck, Big Tusk Energy. I got to be careful with that one.
Proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network.
Have him do a scout.
Hour 2 of the Sean O'Connell Show continues here on a Friday. Text us your grievances, 877-353-0700, 1:30. As we always do, we will air grievances. We will unburden ourselves as we head into the weekend. OC is going to join us at 1:30 as well to do that with us. Preview PFL Fight Night in Chicago. But it's hockey hour on the Sean O'Connell Show. We just finished our first Behind the Glass segment with Adrian Denny. That, of course, brought to you by Angora and Aladdin Industries. And now we are pleased to have the host, the founder of SLC Puck, Austin Facer, and also a name that Utah fans know and love, Austin
Oh,
Facer.
gosh. I don't know about that. You're being overly generous there. I feel bad because the hockey talk's going to take a very violent turn right now from being very insightful and informed and well-structured with AD to perhaps a little bit more deranged now. But anyway, I appreciate the introduction.
But that's hockey.
It's hockey, right?
That's hockey. There are moments where it
Violence
is.
and deranged?
Yeah. Like there are times where everybody's just cooperating, and then somebody gets checked in the boards, and you're like, "Whoa!"
And then you have
like hurt.
Then you have a fight spilling into the Montreal Canadiens bench in a playoff game.
Or sideline reporters getting hit with pucks.
Yeah.
I like to think my hockey analysis really appeals to the people who do the Bud Light Selly cam and are just, downing beers as quickly. That's really my core audience there.
The shoey crowd?
The shoey crowd,
You know
yeah.
what's the best part about that? Bill Armstrong, I believe he was on the drive with Spence Checketts. I don't know how many months ago now, but he had talked about that's his favorite part of Utah Mammoth fans, Utah Hockey Club fans is the beer cam.
Yes.
The Selly cam and just something he said it was not something he expected. I don't know why he wouldn't expect that in Utah. I don't know what the reputation of Utah is outside of the state. People drink beer here. Like,
we'll talk about this off air, James. You'd be shocked what people outside of Utah are saying about Utah. It's crazy.
But that was Bill Armstrong himself said that's his favorite part of this fan base is that Bud Light Selly cam and how I guess he just did not expect to be that much beer flowing in the Delta Center from Utah Hockey Club, Utah Mammoth fans.
It's really a place where people can let loose, and just be themselves. Because I think, we're all kind of buttoned up on some level. We put on our suit and we go to work and we present ourselves a certain way. But we all really kind of want to drink a beer out of our shoe too, at the same time. You know what I mean? Like we all just kind of want to do that. And so when we see other people do it, it's just it's fun. It's like very liberating, very, very empowering.
That is the first thought when I pick up my shoes in the morning is like, why is there not a beer in here to drink?
Yeah, this is suspiciously dry.
Or, swig, flavored soda, whatever might be your thing.
Whatever hydrates your
just try
your
it once.
system.
You might like it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just give it adds flavor to it. But I think it's interesting because we're actually kind of going on two ends of the spectrum here. Adrian has the behind the scenes stuff, has been a part of local hockey for such a long time. Also worked with a franchise down in Arizona, so he has that perspective. I think you have more men on the street, in the arena kind of thing.
I'm in the trenches. Yeah.
Which is nice because I really think that as sports evolve, you want to see all of it, right? Like you want to get the breakdowns, but if it's too breakdown heavy, and I always had this issue, when people would want to talk about football, it's like I'm talking about the same stuff all the time. But what's interesting to me is what's going on outside of the sphere. What are fans doing? How are they interacting with the team? That kind of stuff. And I think it's, especially with the specialization of content and media coverage and everything like that, it does open up the possibility to a lot more of it. And that's what I've always appreciated with SLC Puck, that and the costumes.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that.
Have like a deal?
October is a big month for us. We're not sponsored by Spirit Halloween yet.
So it's not like costume.
We'll send out some feelers to get some cost, because that is, it is an independently funded show, and a considerable portion of our budget does go towards costumes and other, I try to decorate the same, the important stuff. Yeah, the stuff people actually care about. Props are great.
Costco memberships, perhaps.
Yeah,
like you've had
that's
a
write-off.
man.
Yeah. It's
down.
amazing. I sat down with my tax guy and just kind of went over what I had to buy to do what I thought the show was. And he's like, "Oh, that's a write-off. That's a write-off." Well, we'll call those uniforms. I hope nobody from the IRS is listening. I hope, but yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think sports media is really evolving in a big way, and I think I look at guys like Pat McAfee kind of as like leading the charge, like what the next generation is going to be. And it's, I again, very kind words you said, but I think for me, like I like doing SLC Puck in a way that just makes me laugh. And just to put people behind the curtain, it's a show that I do from my mom's basement because I'm a millennial. I can't afford my own house. I don't have my own basement. So I borrow my mother's. Yeah.
I do the same thing.
Right.
There is a room in my parents' house that has no windows that has now become the podcast studio.
That's an ideal location. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, I always have my sister and my mom sit in the studio with me just so I can kind of get like a reflection as to like whether I'm being funny or not. And so if I can make
live studio audience,
I have a live studio.
That's
Some
incredible.
people might not know
Why
that
are you
about
not
me, but yeah,
selling that experience now.
I probably should actually.
You
Yeah.
have the laugh sign taped to your
Yeah,
back.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, my sister's name is Sammy. I'm like, Sammy, come, give me something here. Give me something. I need a little juice here. So
You have your own Danettes. That's incredible.
Dan
the
Patrick,
Puckettes.
the Puckettes. Yeah, I would love to get some groupies in the studio. And maybe I should sell tickets.
I wonder what hockey groupies look like.
They look like the donors. They're like those terrific women who love their Red Bull Summer Edition. Who were probably beside themselves the other day. I think AD mentioned that as well. So yeah, with hockey groupies are the best.
This is incredible. I think it's a good trend.
RIP to the donors.
Yeah.
This coming season.
Yeah, it's tough.
Let's talk about some actual hockey because that is I think this is the first big experience. And Belle Fraser did a good job on Twitter saying like, hey, this is the hard part, right? And you fall in love with these players. And I think Utah really fell hard for the hockey club, now Mammoth. And it's been awesome to watch. I hesitate to share this, but we're already into it. I'm actually a Vegas Golden Knights fan.
Bryan.
So I've had to like
Turn his mic off, Zach.
Get out of here.
kindly leave. So it's been hard, but the only reason I started cheering for the Knights was that some of my friends with the Stallions, when I used to work for the Salt Lake Stallions,
Seat ahead.
yeah, ended up working down there, and so that got me involved. I'm not a hockey guy by any stretch, but that was like my team.
Well, and the proximity makes sense.
Sure, yeah.
We didn't have a team here yet.
Yeah.
So we
I've been to a
forgive
Golden
you.
Knights game, and I've had a wonderful time. Yeah, I get it.
I say that because I've been forced to become a Mammoth fan. Whether I wanted to or not, I've just been dragged into it. All my friends talk about it. It was a huge part of my friend group that talks about sports. I don't know what direction I was going in other than just, the trade was this first big moment. And it's exciting because you get a player that's high caliber in J.J. Peterka, but also you lose two really, I don't want to say key elements for the franchise, but two pillars of the fan community.
Fan favorites, yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And you're right. Bell did do a really great job sort of spelling out, like, hey, this is what serious teams do. We got to have a little heartbreak every now and then. And I think for those of us who have grown up as sports fans in Utah, like that's difficult to understand, because we're used to like the stability of like Jerry Sloan being the head coach of the Utah Jazz for forever. Quinn Snyder had a long run.
Kyle Whittingham at Utah.
Kalani Sitake as
Getting there at
well.
BYU, yeah.
And then, like more recently, I think like these examples, like the Jazz teams who kept running it back, year after year, like, hey, fan favorite Ricky Rubio's the point guard again, isn't that great? And, I always found that a little bit frustrating as a Jazz fan where I'm like, I do feel comfortable seeing Ricky Rubio suit up as the point guard for the Utah Jazz, but I don't think he's the guy that can take us to the NBA Finals. So
do we want to win a championship or do we want to have our favorite players on the team?
Exactly, right? So that's the
totally relate.
Yeah, that's like the paradox, right? So for me to see like Bill Armstrong, general manager of the Utah Mammoth, make this move where he's like, hey, donors be darned, we're gonna ship out some guys to get the best possible product on the ice, because what matters to us is not the fact that, and we love that you guys have this fun little thing with the Red Bull and all that. It is a riot, but it's going to be more incredible to have that Stanley Cup parade down State Street, and I think it shows they're a serious team. They want to bring a championship to Utah, and that's their number one priority. I love it. I'm like super excited about that.
it does seem like the consensus is that the Mammoth won the trade. And again, not a hockey guy, so I don't want to provide too much of my analysis, but I can always tell just from the reactions on social media and whatnot, if something is a win, this feels like a massive win for them.
Right.
Again, I don't know that this pushes them to that parade immediately right now, but what it does is it adds another piece as you're building on track to that future.
Well, what makes the trade like really exciting is what they didn't have to give up. Like the fact that they retained that 4th overall pick and still got this guy who, by the way, would have been the second leading scorer on the Utah Hockey Club last season. So again, they bring in a guy who's 23, AD spelled it out really well. He's a great goal scorer, left-handed shot, so he'll be on the I might be wrong on this. He'll be on the opposite dot as Dylan Guenther. So we're looking at a line that has two incredible, sniper options at Dylan Guenther and JJ Peterka. That's pretty electric. And they still have the ability to either one, draft an elite player like AD was spelling out, or trade that pick for someone who can give some immediate help. So it's a great trade, but the best part is what they didn't have to give up to get Peterka.
So for newer hockey fans, and Bryan and I certainly fall into that camp, one of the interesting things that I observed watching the Panthers win the Cup and hearing how Peterka might fit into this team is that he's not going to be. They don't plan on him being a first line player, and I mentioned the Panthers because so many of their top players, Sam Bennett included, not first line guys. So as a guy, I grew up, more of a basketball fan. It's like having your 6th man of the year with a guy who's your second leading scorer.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of, I guess, educate us on why it's good to have that kind of prolific guy be on a separate line from a guy like Clayton Keller.
Well, talking about the Panthers, I think like one of the things that made them so potent and so scary to play against is they were able to roll 4 forward lines that kind of played a pretty similar style. And, obviously hockey, you change on the fly.
I was going to say it's hard to keep track of, what line's on the ice right now because
it can
how
be
quick the substitutions happen.
Yeah, that's kind of the big challenge that, coaches and players, deal with. And again, these changes, they happen on the fly. They're so quick. So in Florida's case, they had 4 forward groups that were just extremely aggressive on the forecheck, which is, going after the puck in the offensive zone, trying to get it back, all that good stuff. So again, like the more you can like roll out like a complete lineup, guys who can play, at any point of the 60-minute game, because, basketball, right, you can count on your starters probably finishing the game for you at the last 5 minutes, right? The last 5 minutes of a hockey game, you might rely on all 4 of those forward groups at any given point, so in those last 5 minutes. So yeah, I think the more well-rounded out the roster is, from top to bottom, the better off you'll be. Like the Golden Knights definitely benefited from that when they made their Stanley Cup final run as a expansion team. They didn't have like a ton of superstars, but they had 4 really solid lines.
Depth.
Yeah, solid depth.
And I think you saw that a little bit with the Stanley Cup finals where the Oilers just didn't have. It wasn't necessarily a case of depth, but they didn't have the fortitude all the way through it to withstand the punishing approach that the Panthers play with. And that's one of those things to where the unique part about hockey is it's a lot more like football in the sense of you've got more guys that are playing that are contributing all the time. And so the deeper you can build that team, and then if you add a star here and there, I think it really makes a difference. Oilers this year kind of shifted that a little bit, not as deep, but they added Corey Perry, right?
Yep.
Extremely talented, well-known guy within hockey circles. Sometimes
former MVP. Yep.
Yeah. I actually knew Corey Perry from his Anaheim Ducks days.
Right.
But
Quack. Wrong Ducks.
No Banks. No Banks on this Ducks.
No Charlie Conway either.
The captain, Charlie Conway.
I'm going to land this plane at some point in time, but I guess the thing is that the approach that the hockey club, that the Mammoth are taking right now is to really get that on point in terms of we've got all this young talent, we've got all these guys, so that when the time comes, if the time comes, and you do need to go out and get a star, maybe there is already a star on the roster too, because it seems like some of those guys have had really, really positive off seasons in terms of development.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, a super young team, and it's funny to hear Bill Armstrong talk about like the trajectory he sees these guys on. He's like, we don't see guys hit their prime really until they're like 27, 28. I think that's probably the case in a lot of sports, right? Where that's where guys really hit their athletic prime. You know, they just brought in another 23-year-old budding superstar. So the trajectory is just upwards for another 4 or 5 years, which happens to be the length of the contract extension he just signed. So you feel like there's a blueprint there, like they have they're envisioning like the decade 2030 to be a big one for them. So I think that's what they're building for. But I think they can expedite this a little bit. And I think the ability to trade or draft a really good player tonight will be interesting to watch.
It does seem the more that we talk about it that the direction that they will go in is drafting somebody that they really, really like, or and again potentially maybe even moving up if you know Frundell or one of those others. I think the hard part about it is the teams that are in front of them likely don't want to give up that pick either.
Yeah, why would you?
Yeah. And you know, there seems to be that consensus top 3. Are there guys that you like that are in that range that you'd like them to see? AD told us it looks like all the mocks are looking at a center that the Utah Hockey Club will draft. Is that where you think they should go? Is one of those talented young centers?
Yeah, you know, there's an interesting notion going on right now. The rumor is the New York Islanders want to move up or, you know, get another top 10 pick so they can pick not only Matthew Schaefer at 1, but somewhere within the top 10 take James Higgins, who Boston hometown kid, went to Boston College last year. There's a funny notion that I just saw on Twitter that thinks it would be a little diabolical for Utah to swoop in and take him at 4, and if for no other reason than to perhaps troll or bait the Islanders into swinging it. If that's the guy they really want, they have a ton of leverage in that case. So I think that's a funny idea. If for no other reason than to cause what did the Joker say in The Dark Knight? He's a agent of chaos or something.
I'm an agent of chaos.
Yeah, I think
this is your movie guy over here.
Yeah, thank you, James. That was a good impression. I thought we had what's his name? R.I.P.
Heath Ledger.
R.I.P. I thought we had Heath Ledger in here with us, but I think that could
Common
be a really
misconception.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, you're taller
taller
than Heath Ledger. That's the thing. But so I think that's a funny note, if for no other reason than to be, mischievous. I think that could be an interesting thing.
Hey,
but
you want Higgins that badly? Maybe you can give us who you just picked number 1.
I could see Bill Armstrong pulling something like that after some of the comments that he's made this week. Yeah.
It's all about leverage, folks. All about leverage.
And really, realistically, they can do whatever they want at the 4th pick.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a great spot, and I think it's fun to talk about that kind of stuff. But GMs are going to make the moves that they think are going to do the best for the franchise, and maybe there are some conversations with the New York group that will lead them to do something and make a trade down the road. Hard to say. Before we get too far out of the, so I want to say one thing. Austin obviously knows his hockey. Played hockey in high school. You now play in a
men's league.
Okay,
Yes. We have a fun team name that's a little innuendo, so I'm going to refrain from saying it on air. But for all the updates you need on my team's progress, and I'm by the way, I don't say this to brag. I haven't played hockey in since high school, so this is my first summer in quite a while. I've found myself on the ice, and I'm at a goal per game pace this season. So I'm really proud of
Bill Armstrong. You listening?
Yeah, I think I could be. I think I'd be a great choice at 4. But
I do too.
My team is on the ice tonight at the Oval. I believe we're at 9:45. So again, any groupies out there, you're welcome to swing by and enjoy the game.
Yeah, certainly must watch. I've been hearing that you have a scoop on the Stanley Cup champions and a certain local eatery.
I wouldn't say scoop, but I think I played a little bit of detective here. I think
you have a journalism background. We should clarify that.
Yeah,
Austin Facer finds out.
Reading the tea leaves here. But yeah, I think Zach maybe has this queued up for us.
Hockey World wants to know about your relationship with a certain restaurant in Salt Lake City.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't really have too much of a relationship. I think I stayed in that night, but I did fake send a bunch of my teammates to a hot spot there that they walked 30 minutes to and hated it. We landed in Salt Lake and nobody's been there before, so we're driving to the hotel. It was like an awkward time. Anybody know a spot? Like nobody's gonna know a spot. So I just think, top of my head, I'm like, I'm good buddies with Clayton Keller, so why don't I just be like, make something up? I was like, well, Clayton Keller said this place is really good, and then I just go on my phone. I'm like, all right, I gotta find a place that looks like trash, but that's not far enough where they have to walk to, but so far that they're like, did we just waste, like, what did we do?
Yeah.
So I found a place that was like 29 minutes away walk, sent it to him, and then Eki was in charge of the maps, and he's always like fibbing a bit. So he's like, it's only like 15 minutes. Like, it's only like whatever. So by the time they got there, they walked in, and they immediately opened the door and were like, he got us, didn't he? It was awful. Nate Schmidt still, like, he calls me the name of the restaurant. That's his nickname for me. So that was funny. That was a very fun. And I'm just under the sheets in my room, just crying, laughing at the text coming back. So it was a good time.
First off, Matthew Tkachuk, devious as H.
Yes, he is.
That
He's
man
very
is
mischievous.
Very impressive. Because,
well done by him.
Yeah, to be that quick thinking it through,
yeah, Jim Halpert would be proud of.
Very much so. Yeah.
Or do you want to tell us what the nickname is?
Tell the story.
Tell us the story.
Well, again, I don't know this, but as Bryan alluded to, I've just kind of used my journalism skills and my problem solving abilities to kind of piece this together. And with the help of some other online sleuths in the local hockey community, I love that this became like a big topic of discussion on like Reddit and like Facebook and all that. A lot of people did a lot of great work, but I think the consensus was it was either one of two places. It was either Beto's on 4th South or across the street a little bit further, Chuckarama. And so let me tell you this. I personally believe it was Chuckarama, and I have a few reasons to think that. I just pulled up the Google Maps directions from the Grand America, which I believe is the hotel the Panthers stay at.
That's where a lot of teams stay. It's that or Hotel Monaco.
Yeah, exactly. And so it just so happens that the walk from the Grand America to the Chuckarama on 4th South is exactly 30 minutes, as spelled out on Google Maps.
Wow.
Now,
well, it's more like 15.
If you got a brisk pace, right? At a brisk pace, yeah.
If you're talking to Eki, apparently.
If you're talking to Eki, it's about 15.
He must be ADHD like me, shares time blindness. So
yeah, exactly. That's right. But I think there's some other clues here that indicate that this was Chuckarama. I don't think it was Beto's because I don't think they would have walked in the door had they seen if it just had been Beto's.
They would have saw it.
They would have seen it from a distance and been like, "Oh, that
trashy joint."
That's not where we're gonna eat, and they would have turned around much earlier.
Words, not ours, by the way.
I had Beto's last night. It's fantastic.
I had it this week.
But
sponsor us.
And so I think they probably got in the door somewhere, and I think there's a higher likelihood they would have gone in the door at Chuckarama. But to me, like the smoking gun in this entire thing is the fact that Nate Schmidt referred to Matthew Tkachuk by this restaurant as his nickname. And I got to tell you, I just think Tkachuk-arama makes way too much sense for it not to be it. So I'm of the opinion that it was Chuckarama, and I'll be on the record here with you guys. They're dead wrong about this. Chuckarama is fantastic.
It is.
Have you had the scones? Have you had a bad experience?
We need to get you in front of. We need to get you in front of the Panthers. Did you taste the scones?
Did you taste the honey butter scones?
I may or may not.
The salad bar, the prime. I don't know if it's prime rib. It's turkey. The ice cream. Thank you, James.
I started my new year off at Chuckarama. I have no problem.
Great start to the year.
The B- pizza. Did you taste that?
Listen, it's an A+ in my book. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
But here's what I like about Chuckarama. And by the way, Chuckarama is not a sponsor. Chuckarama is not a sponsor of SLC Puck, but we will take calls.
Not of ESPN 7.
Yeah,
sounds like there may be something brewing there.
There could be. Yeah, I did reach out and ask if I could record an episode at this Chuckarama, and they did indulge me and say they'd be happy to host me. So details on that coming soon. But have you ever here's what's great about Chuckarama? It's such a community place.
Oh.
You never see anybody eating in there alone. They're always there with
Can you imagine the people who are in there watching this entire hockey team roll in, and they're just like, oh, 18 dudes. Yeah, that's
I don't
it.
think we have enough food for this party.
I wonder whose family that is.
I mean, I remember going there like Centerville Junior High after we won the Davis School District Wrestling Championship, of which I did not contribute. I did not qualify for districts.
You were the kind of athlete I was then.
Yeah,
I was on the team.
But we
I did not contribute, but I was on the championship team.
Exactly. So I got to go to the celebration dinner at Chuckarama, and that for me was a great time. So again, Chuckarama, it's a great place for community. The apple beer on tap has always been a favorite of mine as well. So I think the Florida Panthers are dead wrong about this. I think they missed out on a really terrific Salt Lake culinary experience.
I cannot wait for Florida to visit Delta Center this season and hear the chants that Mammoth fans come up with and the Chuckarama signs in the audience.
I will
It's
get
gonna
some
be
T-shirts
incredible.
printed.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
It'll be a hot seller.
Mm-hmm.
Count me in.
Absolutely.
Take my order now.
We're going to have you ask Matthew Kachuk personally, hey, you can tell me. It was Chuckarama, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I will.
Chuckarama?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Hey,
I won't tell anybody. Just tell me.
And then I will tell everybody.
what are you holding your phone like that for as you're asking me this? It's just
Nobody
I'm
will
the
know.
content guy. Yeah, I'm the egomaniac who does content all the time. I'm doing it right now, actually.
Austin, on that note, we got to let you go. This was a pleasure to have you in studio. We're gonna have to get you on when OC's in the air chair during the season. Talk, I guess, the fun side of hockey.
Yeah.
Is the way you probably put that. Tell our listeners how they can tune into SLC Puck.
Yeah, SLC Puck is on YouTube. SLC Puck, easy to find. I'm also on all the audio players, Apple, Spotify. You can follow me on social media at SLC Puck. If you would like some merch to help me, fund my little projects, slcpuck.shop has some fun hats and T-shirts. So, yeah, I'm easy to
What
find.
You're wearing now, right?
Big Tusk Energy. Yeah, absolutely. That's I hold the trademark to that now,
If
too.
watching,
So, there you
if
go.
you're watching on YouTube right now,
Congratulations.
you can see some
That's
of
a
that
big one.
merch. That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming in. We'll definitely have to talk again soon, man.
Absolutely. Thanks, James. Thanks, Bryan.
Thank you.
All right, that's Austin Facer, SLC Puck, NHL Draft tonight. I'm sure he'll have plenty of thoughts on that on social media as well. 5 o'clock is when the broadcast starts. SEG Plus has a free broadcast in Utah, or draft night in Utah, with Adrian Denny, who we just spoke to as well, helping anchor that coverage. And coming up next on the Sean O'Connell Show, we will talk NBA draft, the latest with Ace Bailey and the does he want to play in Utah or not saga. And we'll, if we have time, we'll delve deeper into the Utah football, BYU football schedule, as well as we are 64 days until kickoff for Utah football and the college football season here on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Hour 3 of the Sean O'Connell Show has officially begun. I think we only bled in a little bit into the 1 o'clock hour as we ended things with Austin Facer in studio of SLC Puck. That was a fun hour, hockey hour on the Sean O'Connell Show. AD Adrian Denny started things off the more serious side of things, and Austin hit it home with I like what I came up with, the fun side of hockey and SLC Puck. It was a good time with both of them, and love that he was able to sleuth his way into finding out that it was probably Kachuk-a-rama that the Florida Panthers went to with that great prank that Matthew Kachuk played on his teammates.
This is one of those things that's going to go down in lore, right?
Absolutely.
Like Lenny Gomes telling Utah fans to pump his gas. That's a real throwback. I hate them. They so poo-poo. Add it to the sports lore.
Absolutely.
So, and why not start a rivalry with the state of Florida? Perfect. We're landlocked. They're in the ocean side. Great.
Florida man, Utah man. Let's go. Let's go.
This is what happens when Austin comes in. We get silly.
Speaking of Utah sports, we have an update on the Ace Bailey situation with the Utah Jazz.
The update is there is no update.
Yeah, it's rumor-filled update. Brian Windhorst is one of the people saying this. Front Office Sports is one of the people talking about this, Brian, that Walter Clayton Jr. was on the flight from the draft to Utah, but Ace Bailey was not. But you have some information that you've been able to glean from the Twitterverse that says this does not mean that he's already starting to sabotage things.
Ace Bailey's representation joined Front Office Sports today to dispel rumors about Bailey not wanting to play for the Utah Jazz. Full conversation. I retweeted it. It's about a 3-minute 35-second interview with his agent. That's been a real fascinating development, is who his actual agent is. And I would direct everybody to Sarah Todd's article. She did a great job of explaining.
Link in the Twitter poll that I made at I retweeted it on the station account at ESPN 700. It's required reading if you're going before you answer the poll, by the way.
This is where we get to the point where misinformation starts to spread like wildfire. And I think that's when you have this platform, when you have a microphone in front of you, you need to be very careful about what you spread. And so I try to always lean towards the people who know, the people I trust. Sarah is one of those people that's very well connected in NBA circles. She spoke with Avery Bradley. Avery Bradley said that the team was not requiring Ace Bailey to be here at any point until Monday. That's the date.
Right. That's the day that I think the Summer League roster has to congregate. If you're going to be part of the Summer League roster, you have to be here by Monday, if I'm not mistaken, which is why that's the date that the Jazz are requiring Ace Bailey. Speaking of Sarah Todd, so that's kind of the update on that situation. Speaking of Sarah Todd, I wanted to talk about her article here, and we're efforting getting her on next week with OC. Show's already fully booked today, unfortunately, or
it's a tight show.
We would absolutely have had Sarah on the show today. I think everyone who's listened to me either on Sports Saturday or paid attention now, I booked the Sean O'Connell Show, knows that I have a real affinity for Sarah Todd because she does great work.
She also may need a nap.
Yes.
She was up late last night.
So we will get her on the show to talk about this personally, but for today, we will just lean on what she's written for the Deseret News, which was that great article that you talked about that I retweeted on the station Twitter at ESPN 700. I believe you retweeted that poll question as well at Brown Bear SLC, Brian. And in there, which again, required reading if you're going to vote on that poll, are you still worried about Ace Bailey's intentions to play or not play for Utah after seeing Sarah Todd's reporting in the Deseret News and on social media? Yes, because you don't trust Ace. Yes, because you don't trust Omar Cooper, part of his representation, or simply no, I'm not worried at all. Vote on that after you read the article, but we'll give you some of the cliff notes here. The big thing is, and you alluded to this yesterday, Brian, when I'm talking about Omar Cooper, Sarah Todd reported in that article, Omar Cooper is not technically Ace Bailey's agent. He's being talked about and labeled his agent because he's been the guy that's managed his pre-draft process. And it looks like up to this point, maybe it's post-draft process. But he's not a certified agent, which I kind of almost erroneously said yesterday. That's probably not that big a deal. Apparently it is a big deal, Bryan, because if you're not certified with the NBA Players Association, according to the collective bargaining agreement, you are not allowed to represent a player in contract negotiations or anything meaningful, or even provide counsel and anything like that. So it is a big deal that he's not a certified agent.
And realistically, that's to protect players.
Yes.
And so you have to be certified by the Players Association, by the union. Jay Billis mentioned in his comments that he's not actually a union member yet, but he is still protected by the union as a draft pick. So there's a lot of legal stuff that,
Jay, a former with a
attorney.
law degree.
Yeah, he loves to talk about that.
He has a little bit of idea of how to parse through that kind of stuff.
The interesting part about Omar Cooper is he does own an agency. I don't know what that agency actually does because he's not an agent, but it's Lifestyle Sports Agency or something to that extent. The relationship stems back to a long time ago where Ace Bailey and Sharif Cooper crossed paths. He joined up with this, I'm assuming it's an AAU team or some sort of developmental group. And so Omar Cooper has been basically training Ace and become a mentor, advisor, whatever else you want to call it. And so at one point in time, there was an article, and Sarah references this article on her Blue Sky feed as well. I didn't read the article, but I saw some of the stuff that she posted. I believe
from NewJersey.com.
Correct. And so pull some things from that article as well about the background and where Omar was in the gym constantly with Ace. So this is a person that is, in a lot of ways, a mentor. And so you can understand where maybe they're coming from in the sense of this is getting to be a difficult situation for Ace because he trusts this guy. This is a guy that's been in the gym helping him work, develop, grow as a player. And now it's become a dangerous situation for him because Omar is steering this in a direction that it shouldn't go. You can put out all this stuff about not wanting to go certain places and trying to control it as much as you want. I get that. At some point, it ends. And it feels like the entire sports world is trying to tell them right now, like, it ends now.
He got drafted. You got to make the best of it.
And Bill made the great point. Like, unless he's got $10 million stashed somewhere, and who knows nowadays with NIL, you can't afford to sit out and miss a year of NBA pay. It just isn't worth it. And so the thing to do is to get to work, show up on Monday, be a good, for lack of a better term, be a good soldier, be a good teammate, be a good NBA pro, and Ace, for all accounts, is an incredible worker. He's always in the gym. That's never been an issue. The work ethic is not that. It is questions about just his maturity emotionally as a young man, right? Not anything in terms of like he's done devious behaviors or anything like that. It's just he's an 18-year-old. 18-year-olds make 18-year-old decisions. Right?
18-year-olds are immature?
Holy cow.
I didn't know that.
Breaking news.
I mean, I'm on record as saying I wasn't one of those immature 18-year-olds.
Oh, I definitely was. I'm on record as saying, yeah. I'm on record as saying I'm immature right now. So
yeah, absolutely.
Lots of evidence to that one. But the point I want to finish with here is all the time we see players trying to grab more power because in reality, they are the ones that are in a power deficit in these relationships. It is these billion-dollar franchises that are paying them, that are dictating where they need to be, where they're owning their rights. All these phrases that we kind of got dicey, in 2020. That's why we have a board of governors now and don't call them owners. They keep continuing to want to grab more power. And at some point in time, like there's just not enough out there for you to grab as a good, great prospect, but that's it. And so some of it is just kind of knowing who you really are in this situation.
This does kind of feel like a repeat of the NFL draft with Shedeur Sanders, but way less high-profile family involved. but the same kind of games that Shedeur and his representation tried to do. And let's maybe take a lesson from this situation. Maybe it wasn't so much Shedeur as it was the people around him, okay? And that's what Sarah was trying to dispel with this article, and I think she did an incredible job. According to her, the impressions that she and other local media members have is that Ace is happy to play for anyone, including the Utah Jazz. It's Cooper that doesn't seem to want that for him because he wanted to maybe he wanted him to go to Washington where he would be more of a focal point on the team, have a bigger role, be the leading scorer, be the leader of the team, all that stuff. Not necessarily too nefarious of reasons, but the end result is the same. It's spreading. It's led to the spread of this situation, of these rumors that Ace himself doesn't want to play here, which doesn't seem to be the case for anyone who's actually talked to him, including Sarah Todd and the local media members that talked to him on Zoom immediately after he was drafted.
It's also worth pointing out that Omar Cooper at one point in time tried to demand a payment to show up to do interviews on Ace's behalf.
So talk about immaturity. This guy doesn't seem to know what it is to be a serious, he's not an agent, but serious representative of pro athletes.
Right.
Like, you cannot be doing these things your first day on the job practically. You can't do that.
He's like the Michael Scott of
Yes, he really is.
of managers. So I like breakfast in bed. Sue me, okay?
Okay. If you're wondering who his actual certified agents are, Sarah found that out too. Adi Van Gontard, and Daniel Green. They curiously are both those guys are from two different agencies, so they are not they're not technically co-workers in that way. But they both are the certified agents, and it seems that Cooper, because of his long relationship with Ace, was the guy that was tasked with, okay, you're going to manage the pre-draft process. And maybe it was, I don't know, this is total speculation. Maybe it was, hey, Omar is my guy, but he's not certified. So Omar said, we're gonna have these guys sign on as your agents, and I'm gonna do the rest of the work that can be done for a guy who's not certified. That seems to be how it's played out anyway, Brian.
I would agree with you on that one, and I think the sad part in Sarah's headline, and honestly, most writers don't write their actual headlines. There's somebody else that's writing that for her, but the headline is perfect. Ace Bailey is in a muddy situation, and he deserves better.
Yeah, it's more of an opinion column than a you know, what we typically see from a beat writer, but it's got a lot of good reporting in there. The opinion is based on great reporting.
I do want to point out that it's not just local reporters that are carrying this opinion. It's national reporters as well. And I listen to
people who've talked to Ace,
yes,
right? Like, not talk to Omar on behalf of Ace, actually talk to Ace.
Yeah, and I listened to a podcast with Sam Vecini and Ryan Russillo. These are guys that talk to NBA GMs, have a relationship with NBA front offices, and they both said the same thing, that this feels very much like it's a representation issue, not an Ace Bailey issue, that the interviews with Ace were fine. He's just a little immature, which, again, you know, I could understand that if you're spending day in, day out with somebody like Omar Cooper, that maybe your maturity levels are not as well coached in terms of your polish is not there. You know, I'm trying to be nice here.
Yeah, and
I don't know why I'm trying to be nice here.
Well, because by all accounts,
because I care about Ace Bailey in the sense of, like, this is a kid that has his entire future in front of him. That's what I care about.
One, he's a human being who is still a teenager, so that's why we're trying to be nice a little bit, because you gotta give people like that the benefit of the doubt, especially if the worst things about them as a person are not anything that bad, right? So that's why you're trying to be nice, and I think it's the right way. I think it's the right approach to this. Also, the other reason why we need to give Ace the benefit of the doubt is that everyone who's talked to him said he is a very nice, seems to be a very good young man.
There's a line from her article that I want to read. It says, by all accounts, he is a humble, hardworking hoop junkie with a heart of gold who is eager to start his professional career and continue learning. There's also a clip on social media from the NBA account of all the draft prospects on a bus riding over to the arena, and there are two kids on the street standing and waving at the bus, and you can see how excited these kids are. And Ace goes, "He's going to be us someday," and points at the kid.
See, that's a guy who deserves the benefit of the doubt.
It is, because like he gets it, like, and that's honestly, like, I am naive. You and I had a long conversation yesterday about how we both
we want to think the best of the people around us in the world,
and we're
Absolutely.
trusting, and
Yes.
and to me, like,
And
for me, it means I'm very naive, and so I really have to be careful of that, because I can trust the wrong people sometimes and think that everybody is like me and they always want the best for other people. And so in that respect, if I were an NBA draft prospect and I had this tremendous future ahead of me and I knew that the one thing I could do is hoop and get buckets, I would probably be in a very similar boat in terms of I'm not built for that savvy negotiation life. So I would be seeking out people, and especially like going into this new era, you'd want people who had been with you throughout the course of it. So it's easy to see why he would make these decisions.
and put so much trust and enable a guy like Omar Cooper who is not acting. I'm going to say it. He is not acting within the best interest of Ace Bailey.
Not at all.
He's not. That's an opinion of mine. Other people might have different opinions. I don't believe he is, but because he's 18 years old, because Omar was with him when he started to become a really good junior prospect, to use a hockey term, as an NBA or junior prospect for potentially NBA, big-time college basketball. He helped him work out and get to this point, and Omar says, you know what, I got a business degree, or like I know business people, whatever he said to pitch him that says, hey, I'm the best one to handle the management and the business part of this. Of course he's going to be like, yeah, well, go ahead. So I also want to read this from Sarah's article, and maybe we end the segment here. We got to get to OC and the airing of grievances on a Friday here in the 1 o'clock hour of the Sean O'Connell Show. This is kind of the how Sarah sums up her article and states it's her opinion on what she hopes happens with Ace Bailey from here on out. It seems that Bailey wants no part of all this nonsense. He wants to join a team and play basketball, and he should be allowed to do just that. Hopefully, Bailey, his certified agents, I love that she put the certified agents part in there, and his family can see that some of these decisions have hurt Bailey and could continue to hurt him if not stopped. Hopefully, this is the last time anyone has to wonder what Bailey's intentions are. Hopefully, Bailey arrives in Utah this weekend or by Monday and is on the court Monday with the rest of the Jazz's Summer League squad. Hopefully, nobody takes anything else away from what should be the best moments of Bailey's young life. Seems like a reasonable thing to hope for. Seems like something that a guy like Ace Bailey deserves. He does not deserve all this. Is he a knucklehead? Kind of the conversation around him, because it's not him that's acting like a knucklehead right now. It's his representation, specifically his uncertified agent, Omar Cooper.
What's done is done. Ball up top.
Love it. Sean O'Connell, host of the show, is next. We will air grievances. He is in Chicago for PFL semifinals of the World Tournament. It's going on later today from the Windy City. We'll also we'll continue our Utah schedule conversation with him, ask him what games are most concerning to him, least concerning, and if there's any trap games that he sees. And he's probably ecstatic at the thought that the Pac-12 is officially going to survive in this kind of lesser version of the Pac-12, but some semblance of the Pac-12 is going to survive with Texas State being added to the conference today. Text us your grievances, 877-353-0700. Call us at 877-353-0700 if you want to air your grievances that way. Unburden yourself. We'll do so with OC on the other side, on about 3 minutes from now, on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Yes, it's time. Unburden yourselves. I've got some grievances. Brown Bear has some grievances. OC always has a grievance. That's why he came up with this segment, of course. Hopefully, one of his grievances is not his hotel in Chicago. We'll find out from him right now. Joining us from the Windy City, PFL World Semifinals tonight in Chicago, is the host of the show, Sean O'Connell. Sean, welcome to your show.
Oh, thank you for welcoming me to the Sean O'Connell Show. My name is Sean O'Connell, and let me tell you about the hotel. No, just kidding. We're good.
It's what we're all been waiting for, man.
The hotel has been great. There's no grievance to air.
Elevator works.
Travel related. Elevator works. Hotel's great. They even have lemon water in one of those little dispensers in the lobby. So I mean, come on, can't ask for much more.
Pinkies up while you drink the lemon water. Wow.
That's right.
Do they have a different?
I was skirting the rules of society by, I had a water bottle that I drank the water from, and then I filled it back up with that spa water, and I could tell that the front desk staff was looking at me just like, you dirty rat. Then they got to refill,
You dirty rat.
Well, maybe it's like that scene from The Other Guys where there's a different flavor of water every single time that you walk in, and so now they have
water.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, cucumber water, lemon water, mint water, orange water. I mean, what if they get crazy and something like cranberry water? You think I'm not going to fill up the whole bottle? I mean, come on.
Hotel staff at the hotel that for PFL staff is staying at, go ahead and call us 877-353 if you happen to have a grievance about that to air.
Breaking OC likes flavored water.
Now is the time. Jersey boys, anyone?
Yeah.
Tell us about, before we get to your grievances, I'm sure. Tell us about PFL tonight, semifinals, the World Tournament. You previewed it a little bit on Wednesday. We mostly just talked about the main event, though. What if you want to talk a little bit about that to refresh our listeners, but what else is on the card tonight?
Yeah, so light heavyweights are also on the card tonight. That's my weight class. That's everyone's favorite weight class because it was my weight class.
Absolutely.
Maybe a little interest for people. So there's a former Penn State collegiate wrestler, Phil Davis, who won a national championship at Penn State against a guy named Sullivan Colley, who's like a rising young star who wrestled at Arizona State. So that's kind of fun. It's not actually all that often where you get guys who represented two different collegiate programs in two different eras. And both of those programs have actually produced a lot of MMA fighters. So that's kind of fun.
And Utah fans, you can feel comfortable watching that because it's a different Colley family involved.
Yeah. Yes, it's Cauley.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not the, yeah.
I'm not joining in on that pun this time, OC.
Okay, well, you're not a pun loyalist. You're selective about your puns. That's almost worse.
I'm a pun mercenary. If it's there, then I'll take it. But
yeah, I'm sure a lot of Utah fans would have enjoyed if the Colley family did get into MMA.
That's a good point.
But at the end of the day, they just decided to be handsome and talented in other areas, which
rich.
So that's going on. Is it 3:30 the start?
No. It's we're late tonight.
Oh, later start.
Yeah, ESPN. Actually, you only have to watch the ESPN card tonight because to transition to grievances, there's somebody else calling the early card on the fights tonight.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
So
6:30 is the start. I've corrected myself.
Show, and then you'll get we'll jump right into main card fights. All of those except one are semifinals, which means winner advances in the tournament, loser goes home. So should be fun, should be really great fights. And everyone loves the big boys because, more knockout power and more likelihood to see mayhem and violence.
Absolutely. But first grievance for you is that you're not on the preliminary fights.
Okay, so, and it's a complicated grievance. It really only matters to me, but that's kind of how my grievances go. So my bosses, my executive producer and my, I guess, regular producer, they pulled me aside, and this was after the fights last week, and they were just like, hey, we're gonna have we're gonna try out a B team guy. I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, yeah, he's gonna call the early card in Chicago. And I was like, wait a second. That's exactly how I got this job in the first place. You gave me the opportunity to call the early card. And then I ended up taking over for the main guy. So I was just like, I kind of cracked an awkward joke about that. And they were like, no, you have nothing to worry about it. And I'm like, did you tell the other guy that? So grievance, I might be getting Wally pipped by the same method with which I got the job in the first place. Bananas.
If they do that, you and I are going to go out on our own, and we'll just do heavyweight fights all the time. And it'll be great because I can just make the puns, and you can tell people what actually happens.
That would honestly be a successful broadcast. Just only large men fighting each other, and then two large men kind of cracking jokes while it happens.
Probably eating snacks because it's going to be in one of our houses.
1 million subscribers on YouTube instantly.
Absolutely. Bryan, you look like you're ready to share your grievance.
I have a new one now because I can't watch the heavyweight fights because I have to stand my guy OC, and then that's my second favorite weight class. So we're just adding grievances left and right. My grievance this week, though, is with road construction in Sugar House.
All right.
And the problem is that there's not a single road in Sugar House that is currently not under construction. And it took me 25 minutes the other day because of this construction to get from my house in Sugar House to downtown. And so I don't know if that's the most first world problem ever, but I'm over it. It's been like 5 years of this. No more construction in Sugar House.
I feel like the civil engineers, whoever has made the building decisions and the community revamping decisions in Sugar House, is just bad at the job. Because you remember when they tore down all those cool eclectic little shops in Sugar House and just left a pit there for like 4 years? I mean, what are we doing, people? You took out the Sizzler on the the northwest corner of Sugar House Park, and then it was just like, hey, what should we do with this spot? People, it's Sugar House. It's a thriving, wonderful neighborhood, right adjacent to actual downtown Salt Lake City. You got to have your A-team civil engineering that suburb.
Now they want to put a hotel up where the Sizzler was. Before it was supposed to be a come and go. And it's just, to your point, every bad decision that could be made seems to be being made in Sugar House. And so I will rest my case on that grievance. Just go try to drive around Sugar House and I win.
Seconded.
Shout out to that Sizzler, by the way. My mom was a server at that Sizzler in Sugar House.
It was a great
way
Sizzler.
Back in the day.
I'm not going to lie.
Shout out to that Sizzler. I remember getting the Dino Nuggets many a times as a 3-4-year-old in that Sizzler.
Heck yeah. That is a great Sizzler. Shout out to all Sizzlers, by the way.
Yes.
There are two
what
left.
A wonderful family restaurant that is.
So Zach Robinson, our producer today, OC, says that we have a caller, and then I want to get to Zach's grievance. But, Zach, who do we got on the line? Oh, we lost our caller. Okay. My grievance with them is patience, lack thereof. Zach, you said you have a grievance. Hit us with it.
Yeah, mine is similar to Bryan's over here. The construction in the canyon. It took me an hour to get home from Park City 2 nights ago. So that is my grievance because it took me an hour, and I have a dog at my house, my apartment, that needed to go out.
There you go. It sounds like our caller might be calling back as well. While he's getting him on the air, I'll air mine. Bryan and OC, I'm sure you know of this establishment, the Redwood Drive-In.
Yes.
Have you heard that it is permanently closed?
Ooh.
This year, my wife and I got so excited. It's one of our favorite summer spots on a random weekend. Hey, let's just go to the drive-in. Let's pay half as much to go see a movie in our car, bring whatever food we want to eat instead of having to buy the crazy upsell prices at whatever other movie theater for dinner, and just hang out at the drive-ins, fall asleep to the movie in the back of our car. Nope, not going to be able to do that anymore because they permanently closed. sad day when we found that.
Yeah. Hey, James, I don't mean to make your grievance even worse, but say goodbye to going to movies in the movie theater. Now that you have a young child,
That's
now
true.
that you have a baby,
That's true.
if the drive-in was still there, you could put the baby in your car.
We
you
were
can watch the movie in your car.
we were
You
so
can't bring a
excited.
baby to a movie theater. Oh,
We were so excited for that. Now, a bit of somewhat of a personal story about this drive-in. 2020, when everything else was shut down, the drive-in was open, people. It saved our summer during COVID to be like, oh, we can go to the drive-in. We can actually go out and do something and not have to worry about being too close to other people, sharing other people's air. So, that ended up being what kind of cemented the affinity that we had for that place, is that it was a very kind of a special summer, having a place to go when everything else was shut down. Just about everything else was shut down, and now it's gone. So,
well, echoed grievance. I think that means that's the last. There's no more drive-ins in the Salt Lake Valley then, because I think that was the last one.
Not one in Salt Lake Valley. The closest one we found is in Tooele. So maybe we make the trek out to Tooele. I don't know.
No, that's a big ask.
That kind of is.
Take bug spray.
Take bug spray. Our caller is back on the line, right, Zach? What's our caller's name, Zach? Zach, I can't hear you.
His name is Sam.
Sam is on the line. Sam, what is your grievance?
What's up, guys? Listen, I got a couple grievances. Main one right now that's kind of really irking me is just like this whole BYU recruiting thing. Like, I saw this tweet that said, I don't respect a team that all of a sudden becomes successful in the money era. And I was like, I can't retweet that anymore because it's kind of fact, but it's like a lot of these Coug fans don't realize what they're getting and why. So I just wanted to get your input on that and hear what you have to think about recruiting and kind of the landscape of paying for players and fans thinking that they built that program by their school being good, but in reality it's not.
OC, I'll let you go first on that one. Thank you, Sam.
Well, look, I understand that this is a common Utah sentiment right now, but we have to acknowledge that college sports are cyclical and that having a more competitive BYU team in the state is ultimately good for Utah and good for the state when another round of realignment inevitably happens. I do hate the fact that you can buy players now. I don't like it. I don't think that the safeguards put in place are going to change anything about that. I think that, Pandora's out of the box and we can't put it back in. It's unfortunate. But let's also remember that if your big-time donor, if your big-time booster comes up with, $1 million, $2 million, $4 million, whatever the reported numbers are, to get a player that you desperately want, you're going to be celebrating it. You're not going to be criticizing that. You're going to be thinking that it's okay for us, but not for anyone else. So let's try to maintain a little fan integrity here and realize you would love it if it was your team. Let the Cougs do their things. You still have to play. You still have to develop. You still have to win football games. You still have to keep your guys out of trouble. You still got to be football coaches. And that gives me a reassurance if I'm a Utah fan, because the sample size, the more proven program is still Utah.
Bryan, you want to get on this too, as a guy who covered recruiting for a long time?
We had a little bit of a Joker theme earlier today. I'm going to combine two of my favorite villains, the Joker and the Emperor, and say, good. Let the hate flow through you. We're ending the streak this year.
Let's go.
BYU does not beat Utah. Hate your rival. Hate everything they're doing. Let's build this thing. Let's take over Lavelle Edwards Stadium in the fall. Let's beat them. And even if that's the only game all year we have that the Utah wins, we have that in the bag.
Let's say we all hate Cougar Tails, but still buy them at the stadium when we
and
go.
Share them with all those BYU fans and put them into a diabetic coma for the rest of the game.
Let's go.
Here's what you do. Here's what you do, Utah fans. All right, you take some strawberry or raspberry jam down to the stadium. You smuggle it in there with you, and then you dip that Cougar tail into the jam, And look, it's a bloody cougar tail. See, boom, you're done.
That's it. OC, before we let you go, I know we got to ask you this. The Pac-12 is officially back and here to stay. Definitely different. We had Bill Riley on, and he was quick to say, well, it's not really the Pac-12. It's a lesser version of the Pac-12, but it's still by name the Pac-12, and it's officially not going extinct anytime soon as they added Texas State today. I know you got to be excited about this.
No, I'm not excited about it.
Oh, you're not?
Look,
I thought with your experience working for the conference, even though it's a lot different, you'd be excited that it's staying around.
Look, I'm glad that there are new programs getting opportunities on a slightly larger stage and with a slightly more recognizable brand next to their name, including the Aggies, right? Love to see the Aggies take over that conference. But it's not the Pac-12. It's not the Pac-10. It's not the Pac-8. It's not the Pac anything. We talked about this the other day. There's only one campus that even has a view of the Pacific coast, of the Pacific Ocean that is now in that conference. So it's a bastardized version of what the conference used to be. It's a poor approximation of the glory days. And to try to prop it up as an equal product or even a comparable product is a little bit embarrassing, and I don't love it. In fact, I hate it.
You wish that these teams they'd come up with a different name for it then.
I wish that they just would have said, hey, look, we are effectively the Mountain West Conference, so let's just try to make the Mountain West Conference a bigger deal. Like, from the substance of it, there's no difference between the Mountain West Conference and the Pac-12 Conference. The Pac-12 brand didn't even save Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Utah. Why would it be something that props up Texas State? I don't know. I just think it's more bad decisions from the decision makers at the highest level in that conference.
Fair enough. Bryan and I we actually have positive viewpoint on the world, so we feel like it might be a good thing. But yeah, I see your point.
I'm just mad that San Marcos got added after Utah had already vacated the Pac-12 because it really is a lovely place to visit. They call it San Marvelous for a reason.
Yeah, it's right between San Antonio and Austin. You get weird when you go down there.
Everyone knew that. Everyone knew where it was except me today so far on the show. Just so you know, I had no idea in Texas where San Marcos was. So.
Okay, grievance against you for not knowing geography.
OC, thank you so much for coming on your show, airing your grievances, and we'll be sure to tune in to PFL World Tournament semifinals, 6:30 tonight, ESPN and ESPN Plus. Have a good call.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, that's Sean O'Connell, host of the show, and that was airing of grievances. Let me read a couple more from our text line before we go to break, Brian. One of these from earlier in the show. Do these kids not watch the NBA? Show up to the Jazz and play for 4 years. They'll develop you, then they'll trade you when you're doing well, and you can go play for a championship. Same old Jazz story. So that was obviously about Ace Bailey. Just show up, please, but also, grievance on the Jazz history, I guess. There,
Jazz fans are relentless right now, and I love it. I also feel a little twinge of empathy for them because it has been rough.
Yeah. Absolutely. Grievance with athlete representation. Again, with the Ace Bailey situation, stop trying to control the situation. You are making these kids look bad when all they want to do is play and make their lives better. And that seems to be Ace Bailey's situation. Valid grievance. We echo that here on the Sean O'Connell show today. Grievance, those who get on the freeway and top out at maximum speed of 55.
Oh, boy.
May I recommend State Street or Redwood Road for your travels? You turn the freeway into an obstacle course for the rest of us. I can't, as a guy who always airs traffic grievances.
Yep.
I love that one. And then grievance FedEx, UPS, and Amazon drivers who think it is totally acceptable to park their giant vehicles in the middle of the street, up on a red painted curb, or right in front of an entrance to a building, or sideways across 6 parking spots just because you turn your hazard lights on. Well, they kind of are allowed to do that, though.
Are they?
Right? Maybe not. Maybe
Are
I'm
they?
totally wrong. Also, we love our delivery drivers. They're doing God's work out there, especially the Amazon.
It's not the delivery driver's fault. We'll just say it like that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Ace Bailey-ish here. It's not the
It's the
representation.
representation.
It's the fault. It's the representation.
Amazon, FedEx, UPS, be nicer to your drivers.
Absolutely. All right.
USPS, we can't get into that with them.
I feel unburdened, Brian. Hopefully you all do as well. Thank you for participating in the airing of grievances. Thank you to our caller, Sam, by the way.
Yeah,
with the great
shout out to Sam. Good job.
Grievance. And
you can call back.
Yes, and OC as well for joining us, taking the time to take some time in his own show. What a great guy. And be sure to tune in to PFL tonight, ESPN Plus, starting at 6:30. OC will be on the call for most of that. Got another guy filling in for part of it. In Chicago, PFL World Semifinals. We will wrap up the show next. We got topical trivia, Monster Jam World Finals, my big unveil. The question of the week, Brian, who is my favorite Monster Jam truck / driver? I will unveil it next as we give away those tickets.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it's going to happen.
ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. All right, Brian. We did the bad show host thing again, where we didn't prepare a question for our topical trivia before we got to topical trivia. 2 tickets to Monster Jam World Finals, Rice Eccles Stadium next weekend, 4th of July weekend, July 4th and 5th. First time in Utah. I will unveil my favorite Monster Jam truck. I've done the homework, Brian, and I've come up with one that I'm going to say is my favorite. I'm going to go on record with. So it's your job to come up with the question. Do we have anything popping into your head here? Actually, I know the question.
Okay. I feel like we might be on the
same
page.
What restaurant?
Yes.
You want to do it?
Yes.
Say the question.
What restaurant was the mysterious destination that Matthew Tkachuk sent his teammates to in the story that Austin Facer told us?
877-353-0700. First person to text the correct answer wins 2 tickets to Monster Jam World Finals July 4th weekend. That's next weekend. the 4th and 5th.
Another good question was, what was the weapon of choice that OC wanted to use in the revenge game against BYU this year?
Yeah, we're gonna go with the restaurant one.
We'll stick with the restaurant.
But
I don't want to confuse
we can
people.
bank
but
that one for a later date, maybe.
raspberry jam.
Smuggled raspberry jam. Smuggled in raspberry jam. Bloody cougar tails for everyone. All right.
A lot of drops from today.
Now the question of the week, Brian. Do you want to pose that question to me? What? Monster Jam.
Inquiring minds want to know, James, and we've been talking about it all week. July 4th, right? July 4th?
Yeah.
Monster
Next
Truck.
Friday.
It is the championships. This is a big deal. So I'm going to see all my fellow Monster Truck fans up there, I'm sure.
Monster Jammers.
Yeah, sure. Why?
Jammed.
Let's roll. Jammed. You got jammed. But the problem is we've been talking about this all week, and you haven't chosen a truck. And you procrastinated. The time is now. James Peterson, who is your Monster Jam truck?
I'm glad you asked. I think I now that I'm on the spot, I forgot the very first part of the name, but it's oh my gosh, it's Tron. What's the it's the yellow truck, looks like a tractor. It's Truckatron, something like that. JBC Truckatron.
I'm scrolling.
Monstertron. Man.
JBC Digatron.
Yeah, that's
JCB.
it.
JCB. Digatron.
Digatron. Okay, I totally butchered that.
I did too. It took me a second.
So Digatron.
You said Truckatron, and I started thinking of Truckathon, and then I started thinking about, is Jordan Love going to continue his truck? Toyotathon.
Digatron. Digatron. His truck looks like a DeWalt tractor.
JCB, the tractor company, right?
Yes.
So if you've ever seen one of those scoops or a backhoe or anything like that from JCB, it looks exactly like a JCB piece of heavy equipment.
I looked at highlights for maybe 10 minutes, and that's the one I landed on. He does the wheelie, the stands up all the way on his back tires, hind tires, on his back tires, and he goes forward and backwards. That's his main trick. He's won a lot of races. I've seen at past Monster Jam World Finals
events.
Seems to be
they're not always racing.
Well, yeah, one of the events is a race, and he's won a lot of those. And
so you're a front runner. That makes sense.
I think I'm digging Digatron. All right. I'm gonna pull the plug on this Sean O'Connell show for this week.
We're gonna bury this segment.
We're gonna bury this segment with Digatron. James Peterson, Bryan Brown. It's been a pleasure to host with you, Bryan, this week. Hopefully, it's been a pleasure for you to listen to as well. Listening in all the ways, 700 AM, 92.1 FM, ESPN700sports.com. Listen live. The ESPN 700 app, which is fantastic, by the way, the new app. You can watch our YouTube videos on there now as it's going. And at ESPN 700 Sports Utah, smart speaker, tell it to play ESPN 700. Bryan, did you have some parting words?
Just a quick appreciation for everybody tuning in, listening, voting on the poll. Sam for his good call. Shout out to everybody. And seriously, thank you to you for letting me come in and do this. It's always a treat. I appreciate it. This is truly a privilege to get to do this kind of thing, and I don't take it lightly one single bit, even though we do try to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Bryan, and it's been a fun week filling in for OC. OC is back Monday, 4th of July week. It'll be a shortened week because of the holiday. Excited to welcome Sean back to the air chair and go back behind the glass and help him out that way. Porter Larson and Bryce Larson, I believe, is co-hosting with him today. They're hosting the drive from Tim Dolly Ford in Spanish Fork. Go check them out. Check out the deals they got going on there. And if you can't make it out to Spanish Fork, if you're not in that area, tune in here. From 2 to 6, Drive with Spence Checketts is next on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network.